Bonjour.
Bonjour, monsieur. How's it going, you right?
Yeah, I'm still alive. The feds ain't got me yet. They ain't got
Yeah,
much,
same
have
here.
they? They ain't got much, have they? They haven't released the videos. Yay! What a surprise
Oh,
there.
yeah, when they supposed to release them, weren't they? Wasn't it today? Was
Yesterday.
it? Oh, it was
Yesterday.
yesterday. There was a lot of hype, wasn't there, in regards of what was supposed to be allegedly be shown. Some amazing stuff apparently, but we shall see. We shall see, mate.
No, we won't. According to it, we won't.
This is it with you current day ufology. I call it like the new age of ufology. It's like a big hype and it gets slammed down to the ground like a massive disappointment. It's like a really bad soap opera. It
Well,
finishes with season one, which is on the hype, and then it begins with season two, and it's just like a massive letdown. Pick whatever
uh,
season that might be. Not too sure.
well,
So yeah.
I just wanted to see if they would release anything, and if there was anything good. Boy, was I going to come at you hardcore, but nothing.
Oh, I got my microphone wrong. Is that better? Hold on a minute.
I'll do roll call while you're messing with your microphone. And the roll call, hello everyone.
I got
So
it.
we're gonna kick it off with John Stokes. We'll find a good one. There you go.
Yeah,
There you go.
nice. Oh, John, how's it going, mate? Thanks for the
How
shout
you
out.
doing? How you doing, drumstick? And we have Corbell's cat here.
How's it going, guys? Just check my
Um,
mic.
yeah, I think that's it. That's it for the roll call. Hold on. Let's see. Any Black Dot man. See this because you're there you go. I was saying that's it. Black Dot man. Black Dot. How you doing, brother?
How's it going? Nice to see you. And Sadie
Yeah.
as well. Sadie's there. There you are, Sadie. How's it going? Nice to see you.
All right. Well, shall we dive in?
Yeah, let's do it.
I feel a bit bummed out. Oh, I was expecting something.
In time, you never know. It might pop up tomorrow. We'll see. Your time will come, Hayden. Don't worry. Hey,
Well,
Stephen England.
I'm reading. I'm
How's it
reading
going?
from what I can read. How you do? Oh, Bob Lazar. How you doing,
Yo,
Denise?
how's it, Denise? How's it going? Nice to see you. From New York. How's it going? Nice to see you. Awesome. And you know, I need to do some yoga. My hamstrings or my quads are extremely tight. I'm really good at squatting, but my teacher, Meg, she goes, "You're really crap at stretching." I'm like, "Yeah, I cannot bend down and touch my toes. I need to stretch more. I need to do some yoga. I'll look at your channel. I'm yoga with Denise, but yeah, nice to see you all in chat. So yeah, what do you want to do first, brother? What do you fancy?
Well,
Bay Barney Hill.
well, that's what we said it is.
It is indeed. Yeah, we'll talk about other things a little bit later. Let's get more people in chat first of all. So yeah, Betty and Barney Hill. This is a fascinating one. Do you know what? I haven't really looked into these abduction cases. Yes, we did the Travis Walton one last week, which was immensely fascinated. I'm still like 50-50 on that scenario. But
Uh,
this one here, Betty and Barney Hill abduction cases, according to Grok, I did this like a minute before the show started, so shh. So it's one of the most famous and influential alleged alien abduction cases in history. It occurred on the night of September the 19th and 20th of 1961 in New Hampshire. That's like a British name, isn't it? New Hampshire. And it's widely regarded as the first well-known popularized alien abduction stories in the United States, helping popularizing the modern template for such encounters, including grey aliens, medical examinations, missing time, and hypnosis retrieval of memories. So this is quite interesting because at the time of 1960s hidden, the the stigma between multiracial couples, all right, and you got to think at that time was very what's the word I'm trying to think of? Help me out here, then. It wasn't publicly well known for mixed race couples. So to have these two, Betty and Barney Hill, come forward and talk about their cases is a massive step in the wrong direction if you don't want to get any stigma. That's the word, stigma, basically. There are more harsher words, but we'll stick with stigma for the time being. Betty was a social worker and Barney was a postal worker. And they are obviously an interracial mixed couple with civil rights activists living in Portsmouth in New Hampshire. And they were driving home from a vacation in Niagara Falls along the US Route 3 through the White Mountains. So around about 10:30 p.m., Betty spotted a bright light in the sky that eventually descended down onto their vehicle whilst they were driving. And it was moving oddly. Yeah, all right, Project Bluebird, calm down. But I'll tell you what, do you want to go like play some videos, because it'll probably explain it better than me. But as a scenario, as they were driving away frantically, but soon experienced missing time, they arrived home at the dawn around about 5 a.m. But the drive should have taken them roughly about 2-3 hours or less. The watches has stopped, and they found odd marks on their car, shiny spots later linked to some sort of metallic effects. Oh my god, I can't even speak at the moment. What a week so far. And obviously some marks on their body as well. So yeah, okay. Do you want to play some videos? Let's do it. Because it's going to explain it.
Just going to say real quick, yeah. I did a show on it. I did a live show on it. Check it out. About 2 videos down from this one.
Yeah, fascinating one.
But it's not done. We're not done with the show. So be on the lookout. There's going to be another one. We're going to have a special guest join us to talk about this, because that's how we roll.
Yeah, we've got something coming up very, very soon. I'm looking forward to that one. But nevertheless, let's crack on with this video right here. So it's about an hour's long, and it's going to explain the full story, because I could do my presentations, but I'm going to slip up with my words and everything. But this, you get to have the whole shebang of colorization and videos and stuff like that. And what's interesting about this case here, and when we know about this, is that Betty and Barney Hill went through hypnosis. I'm going to get through their actual audio tapes as well. So sit back and relax. I've got a Budweiser right here. I'm going to crack open right now. It should be a twisty toppy one. There you go. Fantastic. Cheers, everyone. You're rolling one up, bro. I'm going to get pissed. I'm joking. No, I'm just going to have one beer. A bit of Budweiser, the king of beers, apparently. Sure. All right. Anyway.
No, they're not.
New Hampshire.
Eh?
They're not. They're half right. They're half right. I mean, Budweiser.
Normally, yeah.
Budweiser. There's the Bulgarian Budweiser. You had that
and
one.
what's the difference?
Oh,
yeah, what's that? I remember that. Yeah, that's why every time I take a sip, I'm going to say it.
Look for the Bulgarian Budweiser.
Mm.
And once you taste that, you'll understand.
Oh, right. I'll bear that in mind.
That ain't the king of beers, man.
Well, go say that to Budweiser. I'm pretty sure they'll send some free beers.
I would say that. I would tell them that, man. In fact, what you all know, is it Czech Republican? I'm sure it's Bulgarian. I'm sure it's Bulgarian Budweiser. It's called Budweiser as well, because there was some sort of argument about who had the name first.
All right. Okay. Well, Budweiser, don't let me down. I shall check out the Czech Republic one. All right. I bear that in mind, Silly dude. But nevertheless,
I don't think it is.
Okay.
I don't think it is. I haven't drank in ages, so what do I know? But I don't think it is. Yeah, let's get on with it, man.
Let's do it.
Hampshire.
All right, you're rolling up. All right, cool. Right, let's go back and sit back and relax, everyone. Oh yeah. Also, there's no. I have no ad blockers, but I did the thing that Moody says, so there'll be no adverts. Yay!
New Hampshire, September 19th, 1961, approximately 10:30 p.m. A middle-aged couple are driving in a lonely rural area when they notice a striking irregularity in the sky. It looks like a bright star, but it moves in an unusual way. The husband
Venus.
suggests that it is most likely a satellite or a plane, but the more they watch it, the less
Smoke gas.
certain they become. Curious, they eventually decide to stop the car and get out to get a better look at the object using binoculars. The fears in the back of their minds are soon confirmed. In their words, it was not a plane, nor a satellite, nor any other object familiar to the night sky. More concerningly, it soon became
Oh, my bad.
whatever it was heading in their direction. The events that were about to unfold received attention from millions around the world when the victim's account was, contrary to their wishes, leaked to the public. The Betty and Barney Hill incident would go down as one of the first and one of the most important claims in history of encounters with not merely a craft allegedly from another world, but the beings said to pilot it. It was fundamental towards drawing attention to and shaping public conceptions about alien abductions. Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Fire of Learning. This is the Campfire series. Join us as we tell and examine the story of the abduction of Betty and Barney Hill. Barney Hill Jr., aged 39, his wife Eunice Elizabeth Hill, who went by Betty, aged 41, and their dog, a dachshund named Delcy, were traveling along State Route 3, making their way to their home in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. They were on their way home from a brief, spontaneous vacation they had taken to Canada. Concerned by reports of an incoming hurricane, they planned to travel late into the night and reach home by 3 a.m. at the latest. Though a storm was on the way, they said their sky was clear on this night. The area in which they were traveling was a rural, forested, and mountainous area. Though it wasn't completely in the middle of nowhere, the area certainly wasn't populous. No other cars had passed them on the highway at all that night. As night fell, they made a brief stop at a restaurant in Colebrook, which they left at 10:05 p.m. The Hills were just south of Lancaster when, at about 10:30 p.m., Mrs. Hill noticed a bright light appear in the southwest sky near the moon and what she believed to be the planet Jupiter. She wondered if it were a shooting star. However, she had doubts from the beginning, namely because the so-called shooting star was shooting upward. Mr. Hill assumed it was a satellite.
Oh, God's sake, hit him. Christ's sake.
As they continued along their journey, the objects seemed to become larger and brighter. Eventually, Betty suggested they stop and try to get a better look at the object. They would stop multiple times to do so, trying to view it through a pair of 7x50 binoculars. As they confirmed that it was not only moving, but observed it change its course erratically, Barney began to think, and in fact insist, that it was a plane or a helicopter. But uncertainty began to grow in the back of his mind as well. When they stopped near Cannon Mountain, the object was now to their right, and they were moving in opposite directions. Then, they observed it turn around and begin moving in their direction. Betty believed it was following them. At another stop, the object passed in front of the moon, and Betty observed what she claimed was a wingless, cigar-shaped craft, flashing a series of red, amber, blue, and green lights along its body. She immediately suspected that the object was a flying saucer.
Hidden.
Not only had she, like most Americans at the time, heard of the topic before, but her sister had actually claimed to have seen UFOs a few years earlier on 2 separate occasions. Barney, however, remained determined that it was an aircraft of some sort, becoming frustrated with his wife at the implication of alien spaceships. However, details such as the strange movement of the craft and the total lack of sound puzzled Betty and, privately, Barney as well. Barney began to get the feeling he was being watched. The dog began to whine as if it were afraid. At some point, Barney grabbed a .32 caliber pistol from his trunk. They resumed driving. They observed a light on the top of Cannon Mountain go off as the object flew behind the mountain. The object then reappeared by a rock feature called the Old Man of the Mountain and began flying in the same direction as the car. As they continued traveling, the Hills passed a motel, but made the decision to continue driving back into the empty, lonely darkness. Not long after, the object, now only a few hundred feet in the air, moved in front of them. Betty, who could see it better as Barney was driving, said the object now appeared to have a steady white glow and appeared to be spinning and moving in an unusual step-like pattern. She looked through the binoculars and was startled to see what looked like a huge craft of some kind with 2 rows of windows on it. She watched as red lights then appeared on the sides of the object. Betty told Barney to stop the car and look. He stopped in the middle of the road near an area called Indian Head, got out, and looked. The object had, as they described it, swung towards them not more than a short city block away and not more than 2 treetops high, then began hovering silently in the air. Barney equated the shape of the object to a large glowing pancake. The object, which he estimated to be larger than a jet airliner, then swung in what was described as a perfect, silent arc across the road a few hundred feet in front of him. The details of the object, including the row of windows that wrapped around the craft, were now plain to see. The craft stopped over a field to his left. He began walking towards it, while Betty remained in the car. He now noticed that the red lights on the sides of the object belonged to 2 fin-like projections that were extending outwards. The object remained silent. Strangely, though the light of the craft was brilliant, no light fell on the ground. The craft slowly descended in his direction as he walked towards it. Betty started calling out to him, but he did not hear her. He looked through the binoculars again. It was then that Barney claimed he saw somewhere around 10 figures staring at him from out of the object's windows. He said the figures were humanoid in appearance, but that they seemed somehow not human. They appeared to be wearing glossy black uniforms and black caps with bills on them. Then, all at once, all but one of the figures moved away from the windows towards the back wall. They started operating what looked like levers on what appeared to be some kind of control board. The craft moved in closer. The fins extended further out, and some sort of structure, compared to something like a ladder, began to descend from the craft. Barney claimed his memory of this part was blurry, but he recalled the slanted eyes of the figure remaining at the window, whom he assumed to be the leader, staring at him, practically feeling the figure's intense concentration. Terrified, Barney took off running back towards the car, hopped in, and took off as fast as he could, repeatedly yelling to Betty, quote, "They're going to capture us." Barney was practically hysterical. Betty looked out the window as they drove off, trying to watch the object, but she couldn't see it. Although, strangely, she couldn't see any stars in the sky either. Then they heard a series of irregular beeping noises, which they said sounded like they were bouncing off the trunk of the car. They compared the noises to the sound of someone dropping a tuning fork. The car vibrated with each beep, and they felt an unusual tingling sensation throughout their bodies as it did so. A kind of drowsiness came over them, and their awareness of things began to dull. Moments later, they weren't quite sure how long, they then heard a second series of beeping noises. Their awareness started returning, though such a fog still lay over their minds that they were not exactly processing what was happening. Barney was still driving. They remained silent for a few moments as they tried to figure out where they were. Soon they realized they were near Ashland, about 35 miles from where they had encountered the craft. However, they had very little memory of having driven those 35 miles. Their consciousness fully returned to them sometime after that, once they reached State Route 93, though they were still fairly groggy and disturbed. They didn't speak much for the rest of the ride, apart from agreeing not to discuss what had just happened with others. The craft was nowhere to be seen. The Hills returned home around 5 a.m., a few hours after they had expected. Immediately, the couple noticed and felt a great many abnormal things. Neither of them felt right. They both felt disturbed, strange, and uncomfortable in a very vague way. Both of their watches had stopped, and would never run again. The strap to their binoculars was inexplicably broken. Betty felt a strange compulsion to leave her luggage out of the house and...
Oh, many thanks, Slimyan, for the £5 donation. Thank you so much, brother. Oh, thank you. Yeah, that helps keeps Hidden's lights on. That's what I would say. But thanks again, Slimyan. Thank you so much. Much appreciated.
throw the food they had taken on the journey away. Betty changed her clothes and noticed her new dress, which was in good condition before, had been torn in a few different locations and had a stain on it. She put it away and would not retrieve it for 3 years. The tops of Barney's shoes were scuffed, and he had a strange compulsion to examine his groin. The couple sat down and tried to discuss their experiences, but found that they still had difficulty recounting much of it, especially the period between the 2 series of beeps in which they had traveled 35 miles, which was almost completely blank. Betty recalled Barney making a sharp turn somewhere, but she wasn't sure where. Barney recalled a roadblock of some kind somewhere along their journey. They both remembered a, quote, large, luminous moon shape, which seemed to be sitting on end underneath some pines, end quote. However, little more could be recalled. Thus, they went to bed. The incident still haunted them when they awoke that afternoon. Betty was intensely curious about what had happened. Once awake, she would not exactly hold to the commitment of keeping it private for more than a few hours. She called her sister to talk about the incident that day. Barney, however, was not interested in speaking about it. In fact, he had entered into a kind of state of denial about it, in which he would persist for some time. He wasn't sure what had happened, but felt it best to shove it out of his mind and convince himself it was nothing. Naturally, they were frustrated by each other's opposite approach. Upon hearing the story, Betty's sister called a physicist they knew, asking for advice on how to identify any potential evidence. The physicist said that if there were any radiation contamination present on the car from the craft, a compass might react to it. Betty took a compass and went out to the car. Upon examining it, she found over a dozen shiny circular spots on the trunk.
Oh, that's a beautiful car. Why do Americans have such amazing classic cars? Sorry for stopping.
The spots were about half dollar-sized and looked like the trunk had been polished in those spots. It occurred to her that this was where the beeping noises had come from the night before. The compass had not reacted unusually anywhere else on the car, but when she placed it there, the needle began to move abnormally. Soon, after discussing the incident with others, it was suggested that they inform a nearby Air Force base which was taking UFO sighting reports at the time. They did so, however. They left out some of the more bizarre details in their Air Force report to avoid appearing like lunatics. Regardless, the individual they spoke to took a great interest in their story and passed the report on to officials involved in Project Blue Book, the Air Force's study of UFOs. After hanging up, they decided to go to separate rooms to draw sketches of what they believed had happened in a way to determine what was true and to avoid influencing each other's memories. The sketches they produced were very similar. 10 days after the incident, Betty had, for 5 or 6 nights in a row, a series of very intense, realistic dreams. She discussed them with some friends from work, one of whom suggested that the dreams could be more than just dreams, but in fact repressed memories, and convinced Betty to write them down.
Did anyone have adverts pop up on it during this presentation, on this video? Because it shouldn't have any ads on it whatsoever. I would agree, Slim Yen. No, you didn't, nothing. Okay. It's weird, it came up on my feed here. Make classic cars great again. I would agree, mate. I would agree.
Thankfully, she did, as the dreams would become crucial pieces of the story later on. Barney remained very uncomfortable by the topic and continued to try to ignore it, but Betty became obsessed. She set off to research as much as she could about UFOs and contacted individuals who were involved with the information she found, namely officials involved in the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomena, or NICAP. NICAP found her story fascinating. They sent it to Walter N. Webb, a lecturer at the Hayden Planetarium in Boston, who served as one of NICAP's science advisors. Webb drove to interview the Hills in person in October. Webb was open, but skeptical. His interview was extremely thorough, and he even made an effort to try to make the Hills slip up to make a flawed or inconsistent claim. However, the Hills' account of things remained, as he said, ironclad throughout a more than 6-hour interview. A month after that, scientist Robert Homan and C.D. Jackson, along with a Major James McDonald of the Air Force, sat down at their home for an extraordinarily thorough interview, which would end up lasting 11 hours. Like Webb, they found the story to be consistent and fascinating, though there were some details that did not make sense. The most major of the inconsistencies identified was the length of time it took them to get home. From where they left the diner in Colebrook at 10:05 p.m. to their home in Portsmouth was, according to Mr. Hill himself, less than a 4-hour drive. Accounting for their stops to look at the object, they should have been home around 2 or 3 a.m. at the latest, but instead got home around 5 a.m. Where were the missing 2 or 3 hours? The Hills didn't have an answer. They had realized that their memory was very hazy for part of their experience, especially during the period in between the 2 series of beeps, and that there was something about it that didn't quite add up. But it was now, as they focused on it in this interview, that they began to realize the seriousness and potential great length of what they had lost. This period of time soon became a focus of the investigation. Major MacDonald suggested that their memories could possibly be retrieved using medical hypnosis. The Hills were open to this idea. Even Barney, who was becoming more open to the conversation.
If you're wondering who Cosmic Twilight is, it's me, by the way.
After being taken seriously by intelligent officials. However, a psychiatrist whom they later consulted advised them to hold off on hypnosis, as forcing memory retrieval could be harmful. In the meantime, the Hills revisited the areas in which their encounter had taken place numerous times, trying to recall whatever they could. Doing this, however, would unfortunately be of very little help to their memories. The couple would also share the story with more friends and even their church group as time passed. However, the Hills still avoided going public with their story. Still desperate for answers, with Barney especially suffering from what was believed to be post-traumatic stress disorder, in December of 1963, over 2 years after the incident, the Hills finally sat down with the prominent psychiatrist Dr. Benjamin Simon, an expert in hypnosis. Dr. Simon was not interested in UFOs, but he found their case fascinating all the same. His main goal, though, was to relieve the anxiety associated with the incident, so he maintained neutrality on the existence of extraterrestrials. On February 22, 1964, he began to explore their story under hypnosis, with a particular focus on the period which they said they could not remember. They would meet with Dr. Simon every Saturday until June 27th of that year. The Hills would be separately hypnotized each time, recounting their stories with the other out of the room. Dr. Simon directed them not to remember anything they brought up during hypnosis after they were brought out of it, unless he informed them otherwise, which, due to the nature of hypnosis, worked. Simon wanted to keep the memories repressed until it was over to prevent communication between the couple that would disrupt their memories, and assess the full emotional effect of the story before risking bringing it up to surface. These sessions were recorded on 11 hours of tape. What they were about to tell Dr. Simon is what made this case famous. It was while standing in the field at Indian Head, seeing the craft up close, that Barney's conscious memory began to become vague. Under hypnosis, he was able to elaborate more on what he saw. The beings visible through the windows, referred to as men throughout the discussion, wore black uniforms with what seemed like scarves over their shoulders. He said that, as he observed the figures running to the back wall, one of them turned his head around and, looking over his shoulder, smiled at him. However, this was very vague, and he later said that he could not remember their mouths very well and that the eyes only moved in a way that he interpreted as a smile. The figure who remained at the window, whom he assumed to be the leader, also wore what he described as a shiny black jacket. The eyes of the leader had a profound impact on Barney. He felt them looking at him even when the figure was not present. Barney said that he believed this figure was somehow communicating with him, encouraging him to stay there, stay where you are, and keep looking, over and over. Barney had difficulty explaining how exactly this communication was happening. The way he described it suggested it was some form of telepathic communication, where he did not hear a voice, but meaning was somehow conveyed to him. Terrified, Barney ripped the binoculars away from him, tearing a strap in the process, and took off running. This was when Barney ran back to the car and drove off. They then began to reach the part of the story that was nearly completely blank in both of their memories, the period following the first series of beeping noises. Barney and Betty became much more vague and profoundly emotional when retelling this part of the story. Under hypnosis, they were not only remembering, but reliving the experience. As they recounted these events to Dr. Simon, both of them began to cry, yell, and panic. After hearing the beeping noises, Barney braked suddenly, then turned off the highway down a few roads that led into a lonely forested area. Barney recalled he couldn't understand why he had turned off Route 3, and later attributed it to the voice in his head. This was the sharp turn Betty had vaguely consciously recalled. They drove to a point where there was a great orange glow in the road coming from the woods. In the road stood between 6 and 12 figures in dark uniforms. Then the car stalled, and the men in the road began approaching the car. Betty became terrified and had a powerful urge to get out of the car and run. However, because of their dazed, drowsy state, neither of them were able to react. Barney felt weak, but not necessarily afraid at this moment. They would later equate how they felt then to how they felt during hypnosis. They opened their doors, and the beings began escorting them down a path to their ship. Betty and Barney both walked. Barney's eyes were closed for much of this portion of the story, feeling that the leader encouraged him to keep them closed. Barney was carried by the men. His feet dragged as they walked, which he later believed to be the origin of his scuffed shoes. Barney had no recollection of what happened to Betty. Betty, however, was much more lucid throughout this portion of the story. She became angry and turned behind her and called out to Barney, who she said appeared to be dazed, almost sleepwalking. After she did so, one of the beings near her said, "Barney? Is that his name?" She did not respond to them. The being then told her not to be afraid, and said that they were only going to perform some tests, and assured her that they would not be harmed and would be safely returned. Betty said the man who spoke was very businesslike and spoke with an accent, though she could never recognize the accent. Like Barney, the way the beings communicated would later be a subject of confusion for her. They both described the men as short, 5 feet or 152 centimeters at most. Their skin was described as an almost metallic-looking gray. Betty thought the leader may have been taller and of a slightly different skin color, but Barney believed they were all the same. Their bodies seemed disproportionate, with large chests and slender hips. They had odd-shaped heads with a large cranium that diminished in size as it got to the chins. Their eyes were slanted and larger than a human's. Their eyes had pupils. Betty had a vague memory of their eyes reminding her of cat's eyes. The clothing they wore seems to have been recounted in contradictory ways. Neither of them recalled any hair or headgear on the creatures, apart from the black cap, which Barney, now under hypnosis, claimed only the leader wore. Likewise, he said only the leader wore a black, leathery-looking jacket, while the others wore light-colored shirts when seeing them in the ship window, and dark uniforms off the ship. Their mouths, which again were one of the more difficult details to remember, were described as thin and lipless. The two were escorted up a kind of ramp into the craft, though Betty tried to resist, and may have even kicked at them. She later believed this may have been part of the origin of her torn dress. The man who had spoken to her told her to stop wasting time. The interior of the craft was lit up with a kind of blue fluorescent light that cast no shadows. They turned left into what appeared to be a long hallway that encircled the craft, with various rooms along the interior of the hallway. Barney and Betty were taken to separate rooms. Barney recalled being taken into a room and placed on a low metallic table resembling an operating table. He vaguely recalled the look of the room, saying it was pie-shaped, except with the tips of the pies cut off. The walls were a kind of sky blue in color, smooth and spotlessly clean. He said the room was brightly lit and mostly empty, with nothing in it or on the walls, apart from the examining table on which he was laid and a cabinet. Betty agreed with most of this, but said that the room in which she was led was less barren, noticing other pieces of furniture, such as a metallic white stool, some equipment in the corner, and what she called gadgets on the walls. She added that everything seemed made of metal or plastic, but with a white tone to it. Barney's recollection of this portion was still vague, though, with his eyes closed for most of it. He said he believed there were about 3 others in the room, but only one was interacting with him at a time. He recalled them examining his body, running their hands along his back, opening his mouth, and scratching his left arm with something like a stick. He also recalled a cup being placed around his groin. Betty's description, again, was much more detailed. She was led into a room and seated on a metallic white stool. There were multiple beings in the room with her, including the one who had spoken to her before, and a figure whom she referred to as the Examiner. Like Barney, the beings, specifically the Examiner, examined her body. They took samples of her skin, earwax, hair, and fingernail, wrapped these samples in what was described as a plastic or cellophane-appearing bag, and then put them in a drawer of some kind. They seemed to speak to each other as they worked. Though their communication with the beings was a subject of confusion, they both agreed that the way the beings communicated with each other was totally unintelligible. Barney described it as opening their mouths slightly and making a kind of mum-mum-mum sound. Next, they informed Betty that they wanted to examine her nervous system. They undressed her, struggling with the zipper, thereby tearing the dress further, then laid her onto the table in the middle of the room. Then they brought over a device, described as something that looked like a cluster of needles, with each needle having a wire coming from it. They placed them on her very gently. She could not remember everywhere it was placed, but said she felt it moving around her whole body, even inside her head. Finally, the Examiner approached her with a needle about 5 inches in length, which was attached to a tube. She asked him what he was going to do with it. He said it wouldn't hurt, and that it was a simple pregnancy test. He then inserted it into her navel. She protested dramatically, as the needle was quite painful at first. But then the one they believed to be the leader came over and placed his hand over her eyes. The pain then went away. The leader apologized, saying they would not have performed the navel test if they knew it would hurt. After this, she said her physical examination was over. They helped her sit up and get dressed. All of the figures then left the room except for the leader, to whom Betty began talking. She was much more comfortable at this point, feeling fairly sure that she was not going to be harmed. She told the leader that it had been quite the experience, but that it was unbelievable, and requested some sort of proof of this to take back with her. The leader suggested she look around the room for something to take back. On top of one of the cabinets, she found a large book. She opened it and found that it was written with writing with which she was completely unfamiliar. The writing consisted of sharp lines of varying thickness, curved lines, and dots, which appeared to go up and down. She asked if she could take the book with her, and he agreed. She then asked where he was from. The leader retrieved an oblong map with dots all over it. Betty would later try to redraw the map from memory. Some of the dots were like pinpoints. Others were as large as a nickel. One large circle that had many lines coming from it, which went to another circle which was quite close but not quite as big. She asked what the lines meant. He informed her that the heavy lines were trade routes, the lighter lines were places they occasionally went, and the broken lines were expeditions. She asked where his home port was. He replied by asking her where Earth was. She laughed and said she did not know, to which he responded, quote, "If you don't know where you are, then there isn't any point in my telling where I am from." End quote. He then put the map away. Soon thereafter, the Examiner and some other figures entered the room holding Barney's dentures. They did not seem to understand why Barney's teeth could come out, but hers would not. She replied that Barney had dentures, which were fake teeth, because he had lost his originals from an injury, and explained that many people wear them as they get older. Then the Examiner asked what older meant. She explained that as people age, they begin to break down. The Examiner asked what age was. She answered that it was the length of time people lived. He asked how long this was. She said about 100 years at most, but most people die before that. He continued asking a series of questions which, each time, resulted only in a new question. What are years? What do you eat? What are vegetables? What is squash? What is yellow? Finally, she told them that she did not know how to answer all these questions, but that there were other people in her country who could explain these things to them if they would come back, to whom she could introduce them. Then, she noted that if they did come back, she wouldn't know where to meet them. To this, the Examiner laughed and replied, "We always find those we want to." Meanwhile, Barney was being released from his portion of the examination. He was reunited with Betty, who said that he still had his eyes closed. The beings informed Betty that they could leave, and escorted them halfway to their car. The Hills believed they were in the craft for around 30 to 40 minutes. They felt a rush of air and a temperature change as they exited the craft. However, before parting ways, the leader took the book from Betty. She said this infuriated her and tried to argue about it. He explained that the others did not want her to have proof or to remember the incident. She told him she would not forget. The leader conceded that this was possible, but explained that it would be better if they did forget. As they parted ways, the leader suggested to Betty that they watch them leave. Barney entered the car ahead of her and found their dog Delcy under the seat, curled up in a tight ball, trembling with fear. Betty went over to Barney, picked up Delcy, and invited him to come watch them leave with her.
So they had the dog with them the whole time, right?
Yeah.
Oh, the poor dog. Oh, it wasn't probed. Bloody hell.
Barney had no idea what she was talking about, as by this point he had completely forgotten what had just happened. However, he came to watch the craft leave with her all the same. They said the object became a glowing orange ball, which started getting brighter and brighter. Then it took off. Later, they would realize that the image of the craft leaving was the vague memory they had in their minds of a moon at the time of night in which the moon had set. It flew away, disappearing within seconds, leaving them alone in darkness.
Swamp gas.
At this point, the couple both described feeling great happiness, elation, in fact. Barney started the car and began driving back towards Route 3. Then,
He got his
the
eyes
couple
open by
heard the
now.
second series of beeps, and they reached the point of the story where they had a better conscious memory. As mentioned, Barney had an urge to go home and examine his groin, thinking at the time that it was proof that something had happened to him. He would remember to do so when he got home, but by the time he had forgotten why, and noticed nothing out of the ordinary. About 4 months later, though, an almost geometrically perfect circle of warts would develop around Barney's groin. It became inflamed again a few years later during the interviews with Simon, which was verified by a dermatologist he saw who removed them with electrolysis. By April, Dr. Simon had heard their stories fully, and soon allowed them to begin remembering things from their hypnosis and to even hear their own recordings. The experience was quite profound to them, though they ran through what he called a gamut of emotions.
Yeah, that is very odd. I have to admit, those scientists is very, very strange. I have to admit. I think there's like 11 of them now, isn't it? I think something like that. It's crazy.
We can have a quick chat after this.
Though the
Yeah, we will do, mate. Yeah, sure.
tapes remained difficult for them to listen to for years, the predominant feeling upon hearing them for the first time was one of chains being lifted from their shoulders. Dr. Simon was not sure what to make of their story. He was struck by the fact that the stories seemed to be quite consistent with each other. He did not believe it to be a hoax, nor a product of some kind of mental illness. However, he was not convinced that the incident had really happened as they had claimed either. He focused on the fact that their stories were almost identical to Betty's dreams, with only some differences here and there. His main hypothesis soon became that the portion of the story recovered under hypnosis may have developed in their minds in the days after seeing an unexplained object in the sky. Rather than Betty's dreams being a recollection of an experience, he believed they may have been only dreams that they became convinced were reality. When Betty's dreams were recalled around Barney multiple times, Barney may have picked up on the details, convincing himself of it as well, and even subconsciously inventing his own story. However, as will be explored later in this video, there were quite a few problems with this explanation, which Dr. Simon himself was the first to admit. Confusing a dream for reality was something Betty and Barney both admitted they could not rule out, but they never favored this explanation. Betty was fairly adamant that this was a reality, and that she could tell that her dreams were, as she put it, somehow different from the reality. Barney vacillated more between different explanations, but leaned towards feeling that this was something that had truly happened. Furthermore, he had said that he had made a lot of effort to try to prevent Betty from influencing him. By early June, the doctor was beginning to feel that they were reaching an end to their treatment. There was still no clear explanation as to what had happened, but Simon's goal as a doctor was to alleviate the anxiety associated with the event, which he had now accomplished. Furthermore, Simon's ultimate conclusion was that he and hypnosis could not solve the case alone. Thus, the hypnosis sessions ended. The Hills began to ease back into a more normal life, but it would never return to how it had been before. They would never forget the experience. nor would they try. For the rest of their lives, they would pursue their case and the study of UFOs in general. They asked Dr. Simon to preserve the recordings of their sessions and provide them with copies. However, they were not prepared to publicize them. Indeed, they continued actively avoiding publicity. Clearly, given that we are here, they were not successful. They had forgotten that in 1963, they had told their church group about their experience. Unbeknownst to them, their talk with their church group was recorded. In 1965, a reporter working for the newspaper The Boston Traveler, named John H. Luttrell, had somehow been given access to these recordings. He reached out to the Hills and even Dr. Simon for information. None of them were willing to discuss anything, and the Hills even requested that their story remain private. However, Luttrell was able to obtain information, intended to be confidential, from UFO investigators to whom the Hills had spoken. On October 25th of that year, the Boston Traveler began publishing articles about their experience. To the Hills' frustration, these articles became very popular, receiving attention from around the world. More frustrating, though, was that their story was being reported in a sensationalist and erroneous way. Emerging into the public eye, whether they liked it or not, they decided to publicly tell their story themselves and try to correct the inaccuracies.
Yeah.
Betty and Barney gave public talks on their incident, and even appeared on radio and television shows. Eventually, they felt their full story should be recorded, perhaps in the form of a book. In 1966, they and Dr. Simon sat down with John G. Fuller to be interviewed for the book that would become The Interrupted Journey. The Hills were not the first people in the world to claim to have been abducted by aliens, nor even the first Americans. However, their case was the first abduction case to receive widespread attention, and, indeed, was the one which made the concept of alien abductions famous. Similarly, their case was not the first to describe extraterrestrials as they did, but it was the one which brought fame to the group referred to as the Greys, also known as the Zeta Reticulans, named after the star which some people have suggested as their home on Betty's map. More on that later. Barney Hill died from a stroke in 1969, aged 46. Betty outlived him for decades, never remarrying. She unwaveringly stuck to their story and pursued it for the rest of her life. She became active in, and a celebrity in, the UFO community. In 1995, she published her own book, A Common Sense Approach to UFOs. Betty Hill died of lung cancer in 2004 at the age of 85. Her niece, Kathleen Martin, published another book on the subject in 2007, Captured: The Betty and Barney Hill UFO Experience. So, what happened? Being one of the most important UFO cases in history, practically every detail of this complex case has been extensively discussed, analyzed, and contested at some point over the course of 6 decades. Naturally, I will try to provide a good summary of these things, but, of course, there are links to further reading in the description if you are interested. Typically, potential explanations for these types of incidents fall into 4 broad categories, which are not mutually exclusive. Hoaxes, misidentifications of normal phenomena, delusions, and reality. A good place to start in determining the likelihood of each is to look at the backgrounds and reputations of the witnesses involved. Who were the Hills before this happened?
That's right.
Barney Hill was a veteran of the Second World War who worked as an assistant dispatcher for the Boston Post Office. He seems to have been a sincere and straightforward person, not given to running off with fantasies. However, he was an anxious person, described by his wife as a bit of a worrier. He was also noted by Fuller to have scored remarkably high on an intelligence assessment. Betty Hill worked as a child welfare worker for the state. She was also considered to be intelligent and pragmatic, and seems to have been much more carefree and a bit more outgoing than Barney. As we have seen, throughout the interviews, she was much more descriptive. Walter Webb described her as, quote-unquote, dominating and possessive, which he contrasted with Barney's, quote-unquote, passive and highly suggestible personality. Both of them were social activists who held prominent positions in numerous community and civil rights organizations. Betty was also the United Nations envoy for the Unitarian Universalist Church, of which the couple were both actively a part. They were each divorced from prior marriages and had met each other in 1956, marrying 4 years later. They had an interracial marriage in a period in which such marriages were not generally considered acceptable, Barney being black, Betty being white. Dr. Simon believed this may have been relevant and stated that ostracization may have triggered an episode. However, the Hills denied this, saying that their marriage did not cause them any problems. The couple never had children together, though Barney had 2 sons from a prior marriage. Betty was unable to have children. Their work lives were moderately stressful at the time, but neither was suffering from any kind of intense, abnormal stress that one would expect to be associated with some kind of delusional experience. Neither of them had much interest in UFOs before the incident, though Betty, again, had family who had seen UFOs before, and so she was superficially familiar with the subject. Barney, of course, knew about this, but said he had never given the subject much serious thought, leaning towards believing that UFOs were probably all nonsense. This was part of why he was reluctant to pursue the story. He, in his own words, did not want to look foolish. Was this all a hoax? A story they invented? This seems unlikely, and was not the favored explanation of the government officials or scientists involved in this area, nor the multiple psychiatrists whom they consulted. For something this complex to have been a hoax, it would have required a great amount of planning, discussion, rehearsal, and persistence. Furthermore, there is a lack of a clear motive. They did not get rich off this scheme, and in fact spent $1,200 plus transportation and a half a year's worth of Saturdays on these hypnosis sessions. Did they do it for fame? Well, you can't say they didn't achieve that, but their, especially Barney's desire to remain out of the limelight, and their, especially Betty's obsession with the topic, seems to have been genuine. The hoax explanation cannot be ruled out, but it does not seem to be the most likely explanation. I think the Hills genuinely believed that this happened to them. But did it? No one involved in the investigation, including various psychiatrists, believed the Hills suffered from any form of mental illness that would cause them to lose touch with reality. They had no other indications of mental illness and had no other known incidents like this in their past. It was considered that something in their environment may have triggered hallucinations. Multiple influences, like a nitrate fertilizer stored in their car, were considered, but the lack of any other reported symptoms is a problem for any explanation relying on the presence of any mind-altering substance in the environment. They were sober, and there was no evidence of the use of anything else apart from caffeine and tobacco. Dr. Simon believed that their sighting of the unidentified object was probably real, and that it probably did have a profound emotional impact on them, though he didn't venture to try to explain exactly what they had seen. Again, he believed the more adventurous parts of their story were the products of what were likely disturbing dreams inspired by the sighting that were recalled as false memories. 10 days after the incident, Betty had intense dreams that were strikingly similar to what she recalled under hypnosis. She informed a coworker about the dreams, who convinced her that they might be real, repressed memories, and that she should record them. This suggestion from her coworker, he believed, encouraged her along this line of thinking. As Betty recalled her dreams to the investigators, with Barney overhearing her do so time after time, Simon argued they may have convinced their subconscious minds that these events were real. She was a very headstrong person, and could have potentially convinced the much more suggestible Barney of these things. Then, hypnosis may have brought these dreams more to surface in a very lifelike way, thereby solidifying these false memories and convincing them that they were true. Simon was encouraged in this conclusion by the fact that Betty's experience was much more thorough than Barney's. He also argued that the incident had many dreamlike qualities, such as its bizarre nature, which included certain contradictions. For example, one big question he had is how the beings knew English, or at least how to communicate meaning to humans telepathically, but not very basic things about our world, like what years or colors or vegetables were. Another contradiction was how it seemed that they did not understand human units of time, but, as Barney himself pointed out, they used phrases like, "Wait a minute." It is entirely possible that they came from a world that is extraordinarily different from ours, and even that they conceptualized the universe very differently, and so these things were not immediately obvious. But they clearly did know enough about our world to abduct Betty and Barney without witnesses in an almost perfect way, and yet the concept of false teeth seemed beyond them. Another important point made by Martin Kottmeyer was that while Betty didn't know much about UFOs before the incident, she did start reading about them before she had her dreams. A question many probably are wondering is, how legitimate is hypnosis? There definitely is something to it, but it's a complex topic which is not well understood, and most of it, especially how it pertains to memory recall, is a subject of debate. As Simon himself conceded, it is not a truth serum nor any kind of mental glasses that help a patient distinguish reality from fiction. Though altered, the mind is still aware of what it's being asked, and will lie or maintain a fiction of which the person has convinced themselves if it really wants to. It is not proven that hypnosis actually helps people recall things more accurately, and while it may be able to recover memories which were blocked under hypnosis, it also has a concerningly strong ability to strengthen or even create false memories. Hypnosis has sent innocent people to jail by reinforcing false memories in crime victims. Long story short, the hypnosis sessions cannot be considered the end of the story, and as professional and cautious as Dr. Simon was, it is possible that they created an even bigger fiction.
Right, I'm going to pause it there because during the hypnosis, Barney said that he saw the word I can't say, Nazi. Those, he literally said he saw them in, but men in uniforms, like from the Third Reich. He said he actually saw them. So, again, you could allude to the conspiracy that the Third Reich was in contact with extraterrestrials, but then it's then... I don't know, man. I understand the point of view on this part, where the fact that the what did someone say here? Slim Yin was saying the power of suggestion when you're under hypnosis can put false memories into your brain. But I just wanted to point that out, though. But that's in the actual tapes itself.
Simon was fairly convinced of his explanation, even saying on national television, quote, "It was a fantasy. The abduction did not happen." End quote. However, there are very obvious problems with this explanation, which Dr. Simon himself admitted. Firstly, the Hills had conscious memories of profoundly unusual things the morning after the incident, before they had gone to sleep, including close-up memories of the craft and the beings in the window. They also had very vague memories of some kind of glowing orange roadblock and a moon leaving in the sky. Furthermore, even if we accept that the dreams were fictional, false memories that filled in the missing 2 hours and 35 miles, then how did they lose those 2 hours and 35 miles? Secondly, while hearing about Betty's dreams may have influenced Barney's memory, he also had a number of experiences that Betty did not. At no point under hypnosis did Barney recall a detail that Betty shared of which he should not have been aware because he was not present, or vice versa. They each recalled their own story from their own perspectives, in a way that would be consistent with it being something that had actually happened. Walter Webb pointed out that their experience connected like puzzle pieces to the periods they remembered before and after the blackout. Furthermore, while their personality differences could have led to Betty transferring her dreams onto Barney, it is also worth considering that, if it were real, because of these same personality differences, you would expect Betty to remember more because she wanted to, while Barney tried to block it all out. Thirdly, there was some physical evidence, like the torn dress, the stopped watches, the warts, and the spots on their car, although not all, but most of this evidence was not very well documented or clearly presented, to be fair, and none of it was anything along the lines of a smoking gun. Indeed, the story I have just told is a tough nut to crack. The question is, however, how accurate is this story? Among the prominent critics of the case was the writer and skeptic Robert Schaefer. In 1980, he published the book The UFO Verdict, examining the evidence, providing many details within which very much shook things up. Firstly, the timeline of events is not as substantial as it is presented. In the main story, they claim they saw the UFO a little after 10 p.m. In one of their initial reports to a member of NICAP, however, they claimed it happened after midnight. During a radio interview, noted in the book The Edge of Reality, they said the UFO started moving towards them at 3 in the morning. Regardless of whether this happened shortly after 10 p.m. or not, as James D. McDonald, a researcher from the area who meticulously retraced their journey, pointed out, they were probably overestimating their speed in certain parts and underestimated the time it took to travel to different points along the journey and to their home. After Colebrook, he said, there are no good time ticks. Because of how important the lost 2 hours are to this case, it is a very big problem that they don't appear to have been sure about when exactly these things took place, especially given that they said they only fully realized that they had lost time after they were grilled on the question by researchers. Just to note, this James D. McDonald who retraced their journey is separate from the Major James McDonald who interviewed them. Regarding the light in the sky, McDonald pointed out that there is an aircraft warning beacon on top of Cannon Mountain, which actually resembles what the Hills described very closely. Looking through binoculars, the beacon light may have illuminated part of the roof of the lookout tower, which could resemble a craft. This may be one of, or the main object, which they mistook for a UFO.
I mean, come on.
Could have been
Jesus
Venus.
Christ. Oh, hey then, for Christ's sake. You sound like Project Bluebook.
Furthermore, he pointed out that it says in their book that the Hills could not tell at first if it or they were the ones moving. Confusingly, the couple did mention a beacon on top of Cannon Mountain in Interrupted Journey, but they were referring to the light of a restaurant. The restaurant was closed, but the lights to the soda machines were still on. Thus, we can account for 2 man-made lights in a scene in which the Hills described seeing only 2 lights. There was also a billboard advertisement for the Jack-o'-lantern Resort and a giant jack-o'-lantern built on top of the hotel, which the Hills would have passed present at the time. McDonald proposed one of these may have been the large orange moon shape they saw. But could people really mistake such simple things for UFOs?
They sure can.
Frequently. Okay, but this was not a mere sighting of a light in the sky. Consciously, before sleeping, they recalled the craft moving. They saw lights flashing along it. They saw it up close. They saw men in the windows. Could these things really have been the trigger of the fantastic experiences which followed the initial sighting? I have stated multiple times that there was nothing in the Hills' background prior to the incident that would have suggested that they were excitable or imaginative people whom one would expect to run off with fantasies. However, it must be said that there were many things after the incident that drew their, specifically Betty's, reliability as a witness into question. Barney passed away in 1969. Betty continued to share her experience and investigate the case for decades after this on her own. However, according to Martin, she turned away from skeptical and cautious analysis of the UFO subject after Barney's death. She claimed to have had numerous, possibly hundreds, of UFO sightings and encounters throughout the rest of her life, some of which rivaled her own initial incident. In the late 70s, Betty claimed to have found a UFO hotspot in East Kingston, to which she often ventured to spot UFOs, seeing so many that she categorized them into different types. She claimed that the extraterrestrials had become much less friendly by the 70s. In one incident, she claimed they chased her and even blistered the paint of her car after shooting a laser beam at her. In another incident, she asserted that she had witnessed extraterrestrials land, get out of their craft, do calisthenics, then re-enter and leave. These are only some of the very bizarre claims she made over the years. UFO researchers, many of whom believed her story, accompanied her on her UFO hunting trips. However, when they, as was often reported, found her labeling everything she saw, including streetlights, as alien ships, the belief they had in her stories started to fade. In one incident, in 1980, Betty gave a presentation to a conference in New York City in which she presented pictures of UFOs she had taken over the years. There were scores, possibly, Schaefer, who attended the event said, hundreds of pictures, most of them being blurry and difficult to make out. Her claims and photographs were reportedly so unbelievable that she was, as he put it, jeered off the stage by other UFO enthusiasts. These incidents are obviously not recalled to mock or insult Mrs. Hill. They are undoubtedly relevant. In the eyes of many, they destroyed her credibility. She certainly isn't the only person to make such bold claims, but the problem is she was actually witnessed making severe errors in judgment, and not just by skeptics, but by people you could call believers. This is a major issue, because so much of the story depends on the position that the Hills were reliable, pragmatic, cautious witnesses. Betty's health had begun declining not long after the abduction. Her declining health may very well have influenced her escalation of unusual claims, but it is worth considering that this had begun by 1961. At the same time, however, Marden noted that towards the end of her life, Betty expressed frustration with the UFO community for its lack of cautiousness and skepticism, and turned away from the more improbable areas of the subject. Point being, it's not as if she had no regard for any caution whatsoever. Whatever the case, it is true that these points apply mostly only to Betty, not clearly Barney. Yes, but this provides much more weight to the point that Betty was the source of the false interpretations and memories, and that she transferred them onto Barney. While Barney may have been much more cautious, he did suffer from anxiety, according to his psychiatrists, and it is a simple fact that things like anxiety and depression can alter perception and even increase the likelihood of hallucinating a kind of supernatural experience. That alone doesn't discount his experience, but it is an important detail. Consider that a panic attack was triggered in Barney by Betty's excitement, that his reluctance to pursue the subject was a subconscious way of avoiding that anxiety, and that his vacillation between not being sure of whether or not it happened was not only a product of him trying to block it out, but of some subconscious awareness that it did not. But it was argued that Barney had no history of reacting to stress like this. This may be true, but ultimately, there is no such thing as a perfectly reliable witness. All of us are vulnerable to the tricks our minds play on us, especially when encouraged by the perspective of another. Adding to this, it is worth noting, MacDonald pointed out that the Hills had been driving for around 21 hours at the time of the sighting, throwing in the possibility of sleep deprivation and exhaustion influencing their perception. Regarding lost memories, MacDonald also pointed out, the Hills remembered every major town and landmark they would have passed. The rest of it, he said, was dark, monotonous countryside, easily forgettable to a drowsy driver. However, the Hills were both very adamant that they did not fall asleep or even come near falling asleep. But what about the physical evidence? There was not much physical evidence left, and most of it does not seem to have been examined professionally. There were a few exceptions, however. One was Betty's dress. As I mentioned, the morning after the incident, Betty took her stained and torn dress off, put it away, then forgot about it. 3 years later, after hypnosis, she recalled it and brought it out again. There was an odd pink powder on her dress and her dress alone. The dress was most deeply saturated with the substance in the areas in which she claimed they had touched her. The powder blew away when she hung it on a clothesline, but the stain remained. 5 different laboratories conducted chemical and forensic analysis on the dress. They detected a substance that was considered to be biological in origin, but which did not originate from her or Barney. It was declared anomalous and never identified. Another element of the case that was the subject of quite a bit of debate was Betty's star map, the recreation of the one which the leader had shown her. In 1968, an elementary school teacher named Marjorie Fish began working to identify the stars on the map using a 3D model of nearby sun-like stars she constructed. She argued that if this star here represents our sun, then this, the busiest and biggest circle on the map, must be the Zeta Reticuli system. Her proposed solution was published, but it was not convincing to everyone. Carl Sagan demonstrated in his documentary series Cosmos that if you remove the lines from Betty's star map and Fish's star map, the resemblance between the two is largely lost. Later, it was demonstrated by people like Charles W. Atterberg that other star patterns could be considered as well. In fact, Atterberg found a star pattern that fit more closely with Betty's than Fish's. Betty's star map included 26 stars. Fish identified 15 and ignored the other 11. Atterberg identified 25. In the 1990s, it was revealed that some of the stars that Fish considered were much further away than scientists knew at the time. With this new information, the map no longer worked, and Fish retracted her hypothesis. The Betty and Barney Hill case endures, 60 years later, as one of the most mysterious and captivating reported encounters with extraterrestrials ever publicized. Its allure, of course, rests in the fact that there remains a possibility that these things truly happened. Did they? It must be said that the counter-arguments made against it are quite substantial. However, it must also be said that there are certain mysterious elements of the story for which there is not a satisfactory counter-explanation. It must be admitted, if it were only something like a dream, then their dream-inspired false memories were impressively consistent and well put together. However, the fact that two stories are consistent does not make them true, and the fact that something cannot be disproven does not make it true either. The Hills were only two people, and the evidence they produced was very limited and vague. Almost everything is based on the claims made in their story. As witnesses, they, specifically Betty, had a habit of seeing spectacular fantasies in what other witnesses said were ordinary things, and the story they present, while consistent in many ways, does also have a number of holes in it. Regardless, real or not, memory of the incident, I think, is worth preserving. The story paved the way for thousands and thousands of such stories to emerge, making it either a central piece of what could be regarded as an American UFO mythology, or one of the first steps towards discovering that we are being visited by people from elsewhere. I hope you enjoyed this video. If so, I invite you to
We did.
This is why I chose this one specifically, because there's many videos about this case, so to speak, but this was very well balanced and giving you like more or less like the full perspective of the actual case itself. So what do you reckon, Hidden? What do you reckon?
What, to the whole story?
Yeah, because the thing is, with especially abduction cases, even when it comes to contactees, if you go back to the 1950s, like the George Grzamski, George Van Tassel, there was another one called Mary, but I'm skipping over a lot of names at the moment, who claims to be in contact or been abducted by aliens. But this one specifically, you are dealing with something that's quite traumatic, you know, the removal of the eggs, you know, I swear to God, Barney probably got jacked off at some point and all that. Physical marks, so there's some sort of trauma-based equation that came with this abduction case, so to speak, and that's probably one of the first ones, really. But then it leads to other people sort of saying, well, I've gone through the same experience as well. But again, when it comes to abductions, it's very difficult to prove anything. And you've just gone off, mate.
I'm here.
You're here. All right. You're picking your nose or something, is it?
No, the camera.
Oh, Derek. No. Might have to reset, mate. But what is your perspective so far? I'm always 50-50. And I've just got to say, I don't know. I'm not going to side either way, whether or not it's fake or whether or not it's real. I simply don't know. Pull your USB out, mate, and put it back in again. It might work. That's what she said. But yeah, in terms of this case, I really don't know, to be honest. It's fascinating claims, it really is. But there are some other videos to really go into. I don't know, have a little look. Let's look through here. And I hope you guys enjoyed that one. It was more balanced, wasn't it? It was a more balanced documentary. Let's have a little look. Ugh, as Hidden says. Hold on 2 seconds. Let's have a little look. Oh, I'm full screen. Oh, don't put my face up that full. Flipping now, it's terrible. So yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not too sure what to make about this case. I'm not gonna side either way, whether or not I think it's real or fake. I I remain open-minded, but I just gotta say, I just don't know. I don't know. Let's have a little look. Can I bring this up? Oh no, Hidden's got to bring it up, hasn't he? Well, I tell you what, as I'm on full screen right now, I'm just going to change the subject just slightly, and I'm going to bring it up near the end of the show, okay? Just a bit of a sidetrack, all right? So you know I run a show called Alien Addict. Unfortunately, it has been hacked, and Ollie, who owns the channel, who's supposed to bring the channel for me as the owner of the show, he's been kicked out, okay, due to hackers. So I'm the only one that can get access to the show so far. Hi, Darkest Gooner. Nice to see you, mate. Nice to see you. So yeah, the icon's been removed, mate. It has been an absolute shit show at the moment. So until things have resolved on Alien Addict, it could take days, it could take weeks, it could take a month. And normally when a channel is hacked, there really is no going back. So I don't know the outcome of Alien Addict. If you can be so kind and to help support me going forward, I have set up another channel last year. Okay, I'm going to put it in description right now. Is in chat right now. It's called the FX Files. Okay, this is my secondary channel where I'll be uploading all the documentaries, and I will be going live this Friday. Okay, until further notice, until Alien Addict is restored, because you got to think strangers, some hackers are now got in control of that channel. So they could delete it. They can delete all my content, kick me out if they wanted to. And I think to be on the safe side so far is I'm just going to leave Alien Addict until it's restored. And when it's restored, I'll be back. Okay, so don't worry about that. If you can subscribe to FX Files, this is where I'll be uploading all my videos, every single documentaries. There's 5 on there at the moment. Obviously, I'll be going live and etc. etc. Everything I do on Alien Addict will be on that channel. So if you can please like and subscribe to the FX Files, I will give you a notice on Alien Addict tomorrow about going forward. But if you can do me like a massive favor, yeah, Moody is saying yeah, I might do. I don't know. It might be in some places in India, mate. That's taking it over, but blame Ollie. Nothing to do with me. Blame Ollie on that one. But like I said, if you can please subscribe, I'll be going live this Friday on FX Files, which is my new channel. Okay, but if Alien Addict goes tits up, and there's a 50-50 chance it might, you could come check me out on that channel there. All right. So I don't know the outcome of Alien Addict. It truly sucks because obviously on Monday, I mean I don't mean to divert this this live stream, but as I'm just on full screen at the moment, I can just give you my perspective of what actually happened on Alien Addict. So it was the alien autopsy video. Okay, Ollie received an email because it's in his name basically. He received an email saying that there's a potential lawsuit because of a certain documentary that was uploaded. And he thinks it was to do with the alien autopsy video, all right? Because it is Channel 4, isn't it? Channel 4, BBC, ITV, Discovery Channel are very, very fishy to deal with. And I was a bit skeptical first things first when I was uploading it. And so this email came through saying there's a potential lawsuit to do with this documentary. And I didn't know which one it was, okay? And what happened in this email, there was a link to a form to fill out. Ollie clicked on the link and the hackers went in, kicked him out of YouTube, changed his password, changed the email address, so he's kicked out. But as I'm a manager of Alien Addict, I still got access. So this is the situation, what's happening at the moment. I hope it does restore, okay? But for the time being, and I will say this tomorrow on Alien Addict, I will put a post out. Come check me out once again on FX Files. Here is the link. It's in description in this video, and it's also, I've just put it in the comment as well. and it's been an absolute nightmare. So the lawsuit was false. It was all to do with hackers. All right. So all documentaries, all my live streams, all the videos I'll be uploading to Alien Addict will be on that channel there, FX Files, and I'll be greatly appreciated if you can like and subscribe and support me there, because that is where you're going to find me. Until Alien Addict is sorted and is reinstated to Ollie's as the owner, or me as the owner, which Ollie wants to do, I'll go back to Alien Addict. But for the time being, I think it's just to be on the safe side, let things recover. All right, so that's the situation. It sucks, it really does, and is kind of heartbreaking, because I put a lot of time and effort and money, you know, building up that channel, and I've just, you know, I deleted the videos because I didn't want Ollie to get, you know, under a lawsuit, only until later, after I deleted the documentaries, to find out it was a hack. So that's the situation so far. But yeah, so yeah, please check me out on that link I put there, and it's also in the description of this video. So that's the situation so far. Sorry to divert the conversation hidden, but I just thought, as I was on screen, now you're back, we can talk about Betty and Barney Hill. All right.
Yeah.
How are you, Hidden? How are you? You're back? You're ready? You finished picking your
so.
nose and all that?
I hope so. Don't know what they did there, man. Those goddamn men in blacks are trying to cancel the 420 show. I've had the email, but I didn't click the link.
Yo, don't start with that.
But yeah, they're trying to stop the 420 show, but it won't be stopped. We're going to be joined by John P. Adventures. Alien Brothers is coming, and we may have a very special guest join us. But I'm not going to tell you who. So the 420 show, it's going to be happening. You see, they're trying to stop it already because they know it's going to be lit, man. It's going to be fire.
It is going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to it. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I know I've got to sit down and do the video to it.
Hello to Justine. It's nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. Welcome on in. It's nice to see you. Hope you're doing well. And Alien Bro, sorry, man.
Yeah, please send me an email so I can send you a link to join us on the show, and make sure you guys bring your bag of sunshine. Let's celebrate 420 for the right reasons. For the right reasons. Because you know the wrong reasons. You know what the wrong reason is about 420?
What's that?
I didn't know this. I didn't know this until quite a few years back. I found this out, that there's another more nefarious meaning to the word, for the number 420.
What's that?
Or April the 20th. It's also Adolf Hitler's birthday.
Really?
Yeah. Check it out. I had to look it up, man. Long time ago.
Oh, right. Okay. So, no, is April the 19th, because what people don't realize, according to the occultism, right, that Sunday, the April the 19th, is known as Sacrifice by Fire. And normally that's Hitler's birthday. And I know this for a fact. It's also the Queen's birthday. And there's also, it links to a certain events.
Oh, then we're all
tragedy
good
events. So this Sunday, the 19th. So I think, they call that the April the 19th is Sacrifice by Fire. And normally,
let me look this up again.
There's an event. Oh, okay, fair enough. Moody has corrected me. Mustachio Man was born on the 20th of April.
Thank you.
18,
I thought so.
89.
I thought so. I was about to look it up because I was thinking, why would I even say that? Thank you. Yeah. So that is another thing. That's a bad. So, because I remember having this discussion with somebody on the internet, as you do. Why would you be celebrating this And I was like, well, man, if you don't know, then, and then that's when they said, it's Hitler's birthday. I was like, no, it's not. And then I looked it up, and that's how I remembered. And I was like, no, man, it's something different now, man. We all the stoners, we celebrate 420. We 420 on 420. At 420.
On Mustachio's man's birthday. Oh dear, oh dear. But yeah, but obviously I'll be there. Obviously it won't be 420, but I'll be there just to observe and keep you guys in check.
I will be 420.
You be 420. All right. But anyway, going back to Betty and Barney.
I'm gonna be 420 now. I think they were 420 too. No, it's a cool story. It's a cool story. Like somebody said, it's more believable than Travis Walton.
Yeah.
Which I kind of want Travis because I like him. I like him as he seems like a nice person. If he's running a grift, he's running a grift. But he's not irate. He's not in your face. He's just telling you his story.
Exactly. Yeah.
And he comes across as like a nice gent, doesn't it?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. It's true, Justin. Hidden does have wonderful hair. I also had wonderful hair back in the day. Long, glorious hair. But the thing is, I look like a girl.
I'm China-fied. I had a compliment from this old boy the other day. I was walking down the road to go get my daughter, and he stopped me and he goes, every time I see you, you remind me of a Viking. And all I just said was, I was one of those in a past life.
Yeah. Oh, bless him. But Hidden, you've got a video. I mean, and I tell you what, what do you think overall after watching that documentary? What do you reckon? Fake? Real?
I think no. See, I do think something happened to them. I think Barney can't say much because he was scared and he kept his eyes closed. Betty seemed like, yeah, all right. You got the histories from the past that he was more like kind of Mr. Mom. He'd happy like go to work and come home, whereas she was more outgoing.
Yeah.
So I could see her having a conversation with an alien being. Some of these women would actually do things like that, and some dudes might. But I could see a woman really badgering an alien. Well, what are you doing? What's this for? Where are you from? I can see that. So,
yeah,
as for what she became, maybe because Barney left, I saw people saying, I know nothing about the woman, so I don't know if she was drinking. I saw people in the comments saying she was drinking. But maybe she just wanted some attention. So she started making fanciful claims. And it does take away, if that was the case, it does take away from your initial thing.
Yeah. Because your stories get more essentialized as time goes by, as you start to get more into the public eye. That's normally the cases get more wilder and wilder. But also you got to think of the fact that, especially in America, 1950s and 60s, it was the hype of UFOs, wasn't it? Contactees, abduction, UFO sightings was quite relentless. And it was a big topic. Hidden, you've gone off again, mate.
I'm still there, man. I ain't gonna mess about. I ain't gonna mess about with the camera no more.
But you can clearly see there was.
You ain't gonna stop the 420 show. You can try.
You can clearly see there is a theme that came with the 1960s. Well, especially like 50s and 60s. This was 1961, wasn't it? With the adoption case that actually happened. That's it, Slim Yin. That's it, mass hysteria. So a lot of people were, yes, can misidentify stuff, but this was the first case, like I said before, that, there's almost like a traumatic abduction with alien greys. When you look like George Jasansky, George Van Tassel back in The Contactees, a bit like this book here, Billy Meyer, they actually contacted with Venusians, Palladians, which are human-like beings, and then they want to
Yeah.
give a positive message to humanity. Where
What
this
about
case with Benny Barney here was alien grades, you know.
what about that guy? I think he was in Spain, and it was around about that time when he saw what he says, and I'm quoting him, a sexy alien, and he went over and he did a Captain Kirk with her, and he paints about them. Do you know about this guy?
Rings a bell. Could you remember what his name was?
Not at all, because I just thought, what a lunatic.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
you know what I mean? It is what it is, right? This is why I understand when they say it muddies the waters, because Betty didn't do herself any favor, and I do feel like something happened to them, and I do
Yeah.
feel that. But I do
Mm.
feel like if you look at what she did later on, I kind of get it, because she was getting attention from their claims when Barney was alive. When
Yeah.
Barney died in the story, probably because other people like Travis Walton's was getting them doing it a bit better and stuff. Do you get what I mean?
Oh, I hear you, brother.
She had to figure out, look, I got to top this off. And if you want to see things, it's all the communities. If you want to see ghosts and you keep staring at a certain spot long enough, you'll see a ghost.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So it's a good story, man. It's a good story. It's like, it's a shame things like, there's a lot of things they didn't save. Obviously their stories documented, but it's a story. You
Yeah,
know,
I didn't know she actually hit the UFO circuits.
yeah, it
And
said
she
said
had
it.
a stigma over it. Have you got that video, mate, of Barney Hill in that game show?
Nope. Yeah, I do.
You do, because I might have it
And
if
I think that would be pretty interesting, because it's like one of those which one, I had a quick look at it, and that's why I thought, whoa, this is pretty good, because he's actually telling his story. It's a game show where you lie. There's two other people, I believe, up there, and they're all lying.
yeah.
But the contestants got to figure out which one ain't lying. The guest, whoever, whatever you want to call these fools.
Okay.
It's
Oh,
called
this guy.
To Tell the Truth. Thank you, John
Right.
Stokes, man. I think it was you, John, wasn't it? I hope it was you. Thank you, John Stokes, for finding this. Doesn't look like it's going to work, mate.
Send it to me. Can you put it through private chat? Put it through private
Yeah,
chat.
I'll do it that way,
Well,
because it looks like
yeah.
everything's going on shutdown mode. No,
That's right.
it's up now. It's up now.
The feds are after you, mate. That's why.
Yeah, they
Spreading
know
the
about
truth.
they know about the 420 show, man. They don't want the peace and love. That might get blockaded. Oh,
Thanks, John, for thanks, John, for this link. It's much appreciated. Because apparently, and I did see this actually. Travis Walton went onto a game show, which was like a truth. There we go.
Go on, finish it.
Yeah, this is it. In regards of Travis Walton, he was on a show, like almost like a game show, where it was almost like whether or not he's telling the truth or not. And it seems so corny, and it just, I was going to show it last time, but I think there might be a copyright thing with these game shows. But as this one's old,
We'll find out.
You'll find out.
If it's not here on the replay, then guess what? No, you know what? If it's copyright for the show, they can have it. We'll give it to them. But if it's going to be a proper, where they're going to cut out the show, then it's not here. All right, let's press play.
Let's do it.
There you go.
Interesting. He seems very calm and collective during that, after his traumatic experience of being probed, as one would say.
Well, I don't know. When was this? When did that happen? 1961. This was 5 years after it. Then.
Okay.
So, after talking about and analyzing it,
And
because
obviously he
remember,
was in the public eye back then. So yeah, that time period.
and
Yeah.
plus what that guy said, why the hypnotist, the the hypnotherapy had to stop because he was only there to treat his PTSD. And once he treated that, he said, "Well, there's no need for that."
You can make counter arguments through the scenarios what they've been through. It's very odd that he went on a game show.
Yeah.
Obviously, he would have got paid for that, but you got to think what was the outcome of what they wanted to gain when they came into
Probably,
the public eye.
probably more to sell the book because the book was mentioned and they
The
sat
book was
down
mentioned,
together.
yeah,
It sounds like all three of them going to make some change out of the book.
yeah. Because that's another thing, Hidden. You call these grifters now. That word is so redundant today, but yes, you are right. They want book deals, sort of publicity and all that.
Well, it's at the end of the day, though, Nick. If you wrote a book, yeah,
Mm.
and you had a chance to go on Good Morning Britain to promote that book, would you say no? Because I
No, I
might
wouldn't say
seem a
no.
grifter, or would you say,
Mm.
yeah, I've got a
I would say,
product,
oh, yeah,
and
I got a
and
product to sell. Yeah, yeah, sure, sure.
I mean, I never. It's hard to say. It's hard to say that, you know, all you can do is look at the story and I don't know. I
But
don't
you
know.
also got to think. You got to think of that time period. Okay, we are dealing with all right mid 60s right here. There was still a stigma about UFOs. I mean, let alone being abducted and have this traumatic experience. Do
Yeah.
you really want to have that stigma attached to you for the rest of your life by putting yourself out there?
Well, that's why he
Especially,
didn't want to do it.
but he went on to a game show, which is like the worst thing you could do, in terms of publicity. Was it a big game show back in the day? Was
Probably
it very, probably, I would imagine, yeah.
because they had the format going right up until the 90s. Because I can remember that
Oh,
game
really?
show. Yeah. Not that particular game show because the British had a version of it.
I mean, what Science Evidence Fringe is saying here, in the 1960s, UFOs would have been quite new. Um, I would say no on that part because straight after World War II, the Second World War in 1945, especially 1950s, like Slim Yin said, the mass hysteria to do with UFOs was in the 1950s, beginning of the 50s throughout that decade. And there's a number of videos of documentaries have been shown on Alien Addict of people back in the 1950s seeing these UFO sightings. So yeah, I guess yeah, like, it's quite new, but it's been over a decade since that phenomena has been really popularized into the American psyche. You got to think TV programs, the day the Earth stood still. I mean, when we talk about abductions, sure, that's a new phenomena, but the whole aspect of UFOs was, it was a decade-year old, and obviously back in World War II, obviously going back to what Foo Fighters were, that was an unknown thing. What these unknown objects in the sky. So you can see what I would consider hidden as the pop culture of ufology in the night, well, especially after the Second World War to the 1960s, had a very reoccurring theme, I should say. The lore basically expanded because it started from George Adamski, being abducted by these aliens, being taken on a craft, and yeah, a positive message. But this was completely different. This was being examined, like Barney Hill was saying, with needles, etc. Yeah, it's quite interesting. That's one thing I always find fascinating is the lore that's gone through the pop culture of ufology since the Second World War. I mean, you can trace it back even further then, but in the public eye is, yeah, I'll say relatively new. Yeah, what Black Dot is saying there, abduction reports were very rare in the early 60s. Yeah, I would say that. But George Adamski, he was a contactee of not abductions. You know, he was visited by Venusians from Venus, and he was allowed to meet these humanoid beings. But then you go to the 1960s, and then you start to get the alien greys. Because, like I said, you go back to the films and TV programs in the 1950s, aliens were basically robots or human-like beings. And then in the 1960s, you start to see the alien greys. Yeah. Sorry, I'm rambling. Sorry. You there, Hayden?
Yeah. I'm just listening away. But there's nothing I can say. I don't know.
This is it, Hayden. You know, there's everyone now is either, it's like Marmite, you either love it or you hate it. For me, I don't mind it. So I'm sitting as my equation of this. I don't know. I'm 50-50. I remain open-minded, but I simply just don't know. And I'm not going to say I believe them or believe that they're fake. I don't know. It's an interesting story, nevertheless. Same with Travis Walton. And you can make counter arguments because to do with each scenario, which is fine. You know, we could always counter argument and always have a discussion about it. But sometimes you just got to say, I just don't know, man. You know what I mean? Do you want to see Betty in her later life? Just quickly.
This is her giving wild things.
Hold on, let's have a look. Here is, I was on cinema, just like spend 10, 15, or 5-10 minutes on the later edition of Betty, and I think Barney had passed away at this point.
Yeah, he would have.
Yeah, Gobstopper sitting on the fence. That's the word for it. So here is Betty with in 1999 with a cigarette, and she looks completely chilled. Let's listen.
I wanted me to go down and interview her. Well, a couple days later, her husband called back up. He said, "Forget it." Says she didn't see anything. She says, "I'm a retired military colonel, and it wasn't anything. It was just a military."
I used to have the 45th Ed Division. Well, you remember Wayne and Sue Bond? They used to come back here when Pease was out here. He was a lieutenant colonel.
Yeah, I think I know who he is.
Yeah. I mean, I had the 45th Air Division here every Sunday morning for waffles and champagne.
And you were teaching them?
And listen, I'm probably the only person in the world who has been paid by the Air Force to go to different Air Force bases and lecture to them on UFOs.
That's what I try to tell people in the government, that the government doesn't know what the government knows.
I mean, when you say government, my God, we got everything.
Okay.
That's a shame.
Okay, we're going to start now. If you,
I better
okay, whatever you need to do.
at least put home. Who is that? That's either Daphne
I
or...
think it's one of those up there.
What's wrong, Sylvia?
Nothing. Got it.
I don't think it was locked.
Maybe that's why I've had a hard time unlocking.
Oh my God, really? Hold on.
How much nice to you, family.
There we go. Skip ahead a little bit.
I thought this viral pressure
Oh
nozzle
my
was another
God.
cleaning scam.
No!
3 months later, I haven't touched my $400 pressure washer once. They're called Aquoxes.
There we go.
Thank you, Aquatic.
Betty, while driving with her husband Barney, was heading south from Canada
Right.
when very early in the morning, he saw a strange light behind the car. It was September 19th. But what time was that, Betty, that this light behind the car appeared?
Well, we would crossed over the border into New Hampshire, and I think we started to see this light following. Actually, in the very beginning, I noticed a bright light in the sky, and I thought I was discovering a new planet until it started to move. And this was about 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. So we stopped the car and got out to see what this we thought it was a plane. So we stopped the car to get out to look at it. And that's when it changed direction and started coming in towards us. Now that was in about the Lancaster area.
So,
And then it followed us for about 30 miles. Paced our car.
and all the while, you and Barney were discussing it. What is this? What is that?
Yeah, see, Barney did in World War II. He knew planes. And he's trying to identify this. And it's flying in a very erratic manner, which was very puzzling to us. But this is 61. We'd heard UFO. Well, actually, in those days, they called them flying saucers.
Yeah.
We had no idea what a flying saucer looked like. But we had no fear, just curiosity. We were trying to identify this craft.
You go on in the road. You decide to pull over. Barney gets out of the car. Has a
Actually, that was in the Indian Head area.
Okay. Am I preceding something here when you encountered alien entities, or was this after?
No, this is the next step.
Okay.
In the Indian Head area, I'm trying to attract the attention of this craft. I'm telling it, come on in. Hi. I got the window down. I'm yelling to it. Hi. Who are you? My cat fell off the stool. And at that point, it left the top of the mountain, came out over the highway, and stopped in midair directly in front of us, maybe about 50 feet in the sky. So Barney got out with the binoculars in an attempt to identify the craft. And when he looked up, he saw a circular window with a bright light behind it, and he saw these men standing behind the window looking down at him. And at that point, the craft began to descend, and he became frightened, ran back to the car saying he thought they were trying to capture him. So we got in the car and we went speeding down the highway to avoid capture. And as we're driving along, there's beeping sounds. It sounds like something was hitting the trunk of the car, and the car vibrated. And then we drove along for about another 30 miles when Barney turned off onto a side road. And here were the group of men he'd seen on the craft standing in the middle of this road, blocking our way. And naturally, he had to stop the car. And they came up in two groups, took us out of the car, passed in the woods to where the craft was on the ground.
At that point, strange thoughts started going through your head, thoughts that weren't your own. Did you have some sort of telepathic communication with these entities, or?
All our communication was verbal.
Verbal?
Right.
Oh, interesting.
Yep. They spoke English in a limited way.
Huh.
Like, a foreigner coming here and not too well acquainted with our language.
But in the same time using common colloquialisms of the day, like you'll be back in no time or something of that ilk.
Yeah, well, in the very first part, they had us under some kind of control. And I brought myself out of this, but Barney was only able to bring himself out, partly out of it. So I was just as conscious as I am right now.
They want.
I mean, I know her story has been in the public eye since the 70s, 80s, 90s. Over like 50 years since this interview. But she seems quite, clued in to what actually happened. Yeah, it's quite believable, really.
You into the craft up a ramp. That
Yeah.
landed craft.
Seriously.
This is right off Route 3. Well, actually, you didn't know where you were at that point.
Yeah.
But
It
the
was
last.
right off from Route 3.
So they walk you up this ramp. You're brought in, and what did they say they were going to do with you?
Well, when we got up to the door, I was not going to go in. So I socked him.
You punched the entity.
Yeah.
Um,
In fact, I put up such a battle that my dress is badly torn. And he said, come on. All we want to do is some simple tests. And as soon as the tests are over, we'll take you back to your car and you'll be on your way.
let's just go back to those type of entities. They were your classic alien, gray-shaped,
No.
cat-like. No, they weren't. Okay.
They're a form of human being.
They were a form of human being.
Right.
Did they have cat-like or Cheshire-like eyes?
They had larger eyes than ours, smaller nose, and smaller mouth, no protruding part of the ear, and no hair.
So
But they're people.
nothing like these classic grays you see near Whitley Street.
I don't know. I've never seen those. I don't know what they're talking about.
Sure, okay. There was a leader of...
Well, we gave them different names to identify him. Now, I don't know if he was the leader or the interpreter, but we called him the leader. And then there was the one who did the testing. We called him the examiner. There were 9 others who stayed out in the corridor, and we called them the crew members.
Okay. So you're on board. What do you remember what you saw when you entered the craft? Did something must have taken you aback, saying this is amazing, or what type of craft am I inside? Can you describe as to what you collectively remember?
Went in to a corridor, and then I was taken into a room, and I had to step up because the level of the floor was above the corridor, and it was an oval-shaped door like we would see on a ship.
Do you remember at that point, did they specify what their agenda at that point was? Were you going immediately in for the examination, or?
They had taken us strictly to actually, they wanted to find out how we were like them or different from them physically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you feel that you were chosen for this, or you happened to be in the wrong area at the wrong time, or the right area at the right time?
Well, now I figure it was the right time in the right area. But I think I brought it on myself. You know, I'm waving to him and yelling to him and saying, who are you? And
You get into the examination room. You're separated from Barney.
Right, he's taken into the second room.
Your examination, and again, all this comes out in later dreams and hypnosis, but immediately do they remove your clothes and perform? What happens? You'll have to. I'm tainted by all the popular lore of abduction stories.
Well, see, I don't know anything about those stories.
That's good. Well, you're better off.
But I was taken into this first room, and it was quite bare. There was a small table, there was a stool, and then the wall, there were doors in the wall that would slide back and forth. And they put me on a stool, checked my eyes, ears, nose, throat, my feet, my hands. And then he put me on a table and said they were going to check my nervous system. And they used some kind of equipment to do this. And then he tried to insert a needle-like instrument in my navel, which caused pain. So they stopped doing it. And then the examiner left and went into the room where Barney was.
Mm-hmm. Can you describe what was happening to Barney, what Barney recalled under hypnosis? What was going on at the same time in his examination room?
With Barney, most of the exam was the same as mine, except they were interested in his bone structure. I mean, they were feeling all up and down his spine, his arms and all, basically.
Did Barney recall any struggle akin to the struggle that you had, where you had a torn?
No, because they had him under this control, and he was very upsetting to him because he couldn't move.
Mm-hmm. So they had implemented paralysis, some sort of temporary paralysis on Barney to subdue him, whereas to you they gave you a little more leeway as far as you weren't.
Well, I was smaller than Barney, so I didn't get such a big dose apparently.
So they saw him as more of a fear, perhaps.
Right, he was bigger than them, taller.
Your examination concludes. Then what happens?
Well, while the examiner is in doing Barney's exam, I started talking with the leader. And I said, I know you're not from this planet. Where are you from? And he showed me a star map. And he explained part of the map to me briefly. And then we just talked about food and different aspects of life here. You know?
And what? Give me some.
Actually, what led to the food was the examiner came running back into the room where I was and started tugging at my teeth. And he wanted to know why Barney's teeth were removable and mine were not.
And the story is Barney had dentures.
Yeah, during World War II, Barney got too close to a hand grenade and knocked his teeth out.
And they were totally confused by
That
all
was very
this.
puzzling to him. Yeah.
And humorous.
Yeah.
Any other instances that something
Wait a minute. So a grenade knocked his teeth out, but surely he would have had visible scars on his mouth in that case. Does that make sense, Hidden?
Half and half. It could have been like maybe he got hit with a shockwave.
But you're dealing with shrapnel, though. This is it.
Yeah, but you can get hit with the shock. But I'm with you.
that as a human you took so general as a characteristic that you never thought of it, that they got confused by, almost childlike, akin to the denture incident.
Yeah.
Was there anything else like that they seemed that, boy, you don't know that you can recall?
Well, they were sort of disappointed. I didn't know anything about the solar system.
Okay.
That I think they really expected me to be able to identify the map.
They were actually upset that you didn't recognize their
Right.
home. Let's go to that. Marjorie Fish,
Right.
months later, or years later, actually.
Years later.
Under hypnosis. Tries to induce you under hypnosis to redraw that
No,
story.
no,
Okay,
no.
maybe you can go over that.
Well, Dr. Simon at the time,
Benjamin Simon.
Dr. Benjamin Simon, said that during the week, if I wanted to, I would be able to remember the star map, and I would sketch it. But I was not to think about it. I was just to let my hands go ahead and draw it, which I did. And that was in 1965. That
4
was-
years after the incident.
Now, in 1969, Marjorie Fish came here and stayed a few days and asked me all kinds of questions, hours and hours, which she taped. And then used that to go back home and
Took
did
your
the
map.
research on it, and identified the areas.
The area of the star map, which she said was in the constellation that we know, Reticulus, in the star system, was Zeta
Reticuli, yeah.
And from that point, do you remember them mentioning Zeta Reticuli, or is that a terminology that we as
That's
Earthlings
our
have given them?
name.
So,
I would have no idea
re-
what their name
Okay.
is for their home planet.
and do you remember what type of star system? Was it a white star? Was it a yellow star? A red giant? Do you recall what type of star or anything?
It's, I don't know, but I do know that our astronomers believe that the stars on my map were the ones most likely to have planets and have life, as we know it.
And so they may be younger stars, hotter stars.
Actually, we're believed to be 4.6 billion years old.
Or 20 billion. It seems that we
But
age a
they-
billion years every 5 years. So
But actually, Zeta Reticuli, we believe, now this is a belief, we don't know for sure. But we believe it's about 11 billion years old. So they've been around a lot longer than we have.
twice as long, and then the chance to evolutionize
Yeah.
to project. So this puzzling incident, you're examined. You get a tour of the spaceship
No.
or the craft.
No.
Did they show you anything? It's just only on a need to know basis.
Just the one room I was in.
The interaction with you and the question and answer session was more than Barney. They did not give Barney the opportunity to inquire.
No, there was no conversation with Barney. I enjoyed myself. I
Just
had a
keep
great
your eyes
time.
closed.
He joked, we kidded,
Really?
yeah. I invited him to come back. I could say, please come back. Oh, I have so many friends who would love to meet you.
So this was not a dramatic experience at all.
No.
It was an enlightening experience.
All of it.
Spiritually uplifting,
Right,
perhaps.
right. Nobody can tell me there's not life on other planets.
At the same time, it seems that 36 hours after the sighting is on record, according to Jacques Vallée, that at 2:14 a.m., Pease Air Force was tracking an
Oh.
unknown object.
Oh yeah, I told him that.
What would be interesting, the fact that she said it was a more or less a spiritual experiment and she was enlightened by it. But if you go back to her hypnosis, we'll say a different story. This is it. It's
Air Force Base released the radar report where they tracked this craft. Sent 2 planes out to check it out, and the reports of the pilots are still classified, so we know they just saw it.
To the skeptic, that kind of knocks them out of the water. Then, if for you to guess, if this were a concocted story, boy, you know your stuff. It's a pretty well orchestrated event to have P's personnel involved, and that Betty and Barney.
all right, Drumstick. I'll see you soon, man. And yeah, thanks for sticking around, and thanks for the classic car chat. All the best, mate.
See you, Drumstick, brother.
Barney was a
Sorry.
postal worker.
Yeah.
Postal worker. You're involved in real estate, and that you pulled off a grand hoax through the Air Force. It's nearly impossible, if not impossible, absurd, I guess is the term I'm looking for. You're released from the craft. You get back into the car. You check your watches. Why?
Well, I don't think we checked our watches until we're almost home to see what time it was, and both our watches had stopped functioning.
And you could not account for some time elapsed.
No, we realized the trip had taken much longer than what it should have. Maybe about 2 hours.
Were you feeling woozy? Did you have a headache? Did you have any physical? Were you just exhausted? What can you describe what your feeling
We've been
was?
driving all night. We got home about 5 in the morning. We're calm, we're relaxed,
Oh, so you weren't,
feeling very well.
you didn't feel traumatized or
Oh,
injured
no,
at any
no.
time or should I say violated at that time?
No.
You go in the house and I guess is it the next morning you check out the car and
Finds
what happens when you look at the car?
highly polished spots in the trunk of the car.
Really?
And that day, we were getting tropical rains from a hurricane that was going through, and it was heavy downpour, and didn't affect the spots at all. They stayed there for months.
Your sister, who claimed to have seen a UFO, suggested that you do what around the
Oh,
car?
she talked to a physicist who said go out with a compass and check out the spots, which we did.
What happened?
And the compass was very, very erratic.
Almost spinning or
Yeah,
just
it was, and we tried it on different other parts of the car, and it didn't react that way.
but just near where the spots were.
Just the spots.
Hence the inference being a magnetic anomaly.
Yeah.
Something was really distorting the magnetic draw of the compass. At that point, afterwards, do you contact CUFOS, Dr. J.
No.
Allen Hynek, or what is the sequence of events?
No.
Just
Oh,
The
MUFON?
first of all,
Or
we didn't do
GUFON?
anything.
Okay.
And then
No, you didn't contact
in
GUFON.
Washington, I wrote to them because I wanted to know, being exposed to a UFO, close range, was there any health problems? Were we exposed to radiation? What kind of dangers?
They dispatched Walter Webb as their
That was
representative.
later.
Okay. So NICAP has that. That letter winds up on the files of the Center for UFO Studies with Dr. J. Allen Hynek.
It might have, I don't know.
You never ever communicated with Dr. Hynek.
Oh yeah, we became good friends,
Oh, really?
but that was years later.
Okay.
We did numerous TV programs together.
Okay. What was your feeling on Dr. Hynek? Was he obviously a thinly veiled skeptic
Oh no. He
did- when
believed
he-
every word of it.
at the end?
Yeah. Oh, I mean,
It
as soon as
seems-
he met us.
Sure. I think that his take on the UFO phenomena when he was humiliated with the swamp gas incident.
Yeah.
You have to trot out an absurd explanation for an event in front of a college dorm, I believe, in
Yeah.
Michigan or near the Great Lakes. That's when he said, all right, enough, that he saw that the government was masquerading or at least trotting out disinformation and misinformation on the UFO phenomena.
Because when he first started, he was working for the government. Yeah.
So Dr. Hynek and you were great friends then.
How's it going, intergalactic angler? Nice to see you, mate. Welcome on in.
Oh yeah.
Great.
And I know Minnie, and I believe Dr. Heinrich's son. There's a son who lives.
Every time is dinner time, Denise. I'm constantly hungry.
Used to. I don't know about now. You live down here in Massachusetts.
Okay. So you're having some troubling dreams now. Is that what happens at home?
Oh,
After the
Actually- 10 nights after this happened, I had a series of dreams for 5 nights. Each dream was different, which later I found out was a recall of what had happened.
And the dreams were depicting what you just described to
Right.
me. At that point, what do you do? Is it starting? Is Barney troubled by all of this? Is Barney
No,
Has his life pattern changed? Has his mood changed?
Yeah, Alien Bros. I like Hynek. I've actually got one of his books here. The UFO Experience, a scientific inquiry by J. Allen Heinrich. That's someone sent to me. So yeah, looking forward to reading that.
At all, or
actually,
any physical?
well, the first thing I did was each morning, during the next day, I wrote down what I could remember of my dream.
The following day, which would be
Right.
the 20th.
And every time I had it, no, I didn't.
I'm
It
sorry,
was
10
10
days,
nights
right, sure.
after.
So we're talking the 29th, 30th, roughly.
And I made a record of these
38
dreams.
years to the day. Okay.
And then I took and put them away.
Mm-hmm.
And then later, several months later, I talked with my supervisor about the meaning of dreams.
They can't
And-
dream.
And she said, well, maybe it happened.
And suggested, or did she
No,
connect
we
with
just talked about it.
So, Barney, I mean, life's going on as usual. You did mention it's not that you had these total memory blockages of what happened, but you knew it would happen, but it wasn't dramatically affecting your lives. More, you're
That's-
curious more than anything.
Curiosity.
At that point now, Walter Webb, representing NICAP, comes. Does he get involved in the picture?
He came and interviewed us a couple of times.
Interviews you. Walter's a very highly esteemed researcher, one of the original.
Yeah, but see, actually, I would say 3 weeks after this happened, the United States government got involved.
Mm-hmm. Did you notice anything strange? Odd vehicles around your home where you followed?
No,
Your prototypical Men in Black. Did you see any of those?
Now they called us from Washington.
It was
Said they
straightforward.
heard about our experience, liked to meet us. They were scientists. They had an interest in UFOs.
So-
And so they came,
Hello.
and we had continuing contacts with them for years.
So
The
they,
United States government. One time we even got together and camped out with 26 of the top scientists in this country, and Jacques Vallée was one of them.
wow. So there was no subversion or subterfuge going on with the government. They were straightforward out of curiosity, and then no one was mocking you or highly skeptical.
Oh, they were looking for information.
You know, and because this was a highly unique case, and it represented a different genre in the UFO phenomena, whereas it was a close encounter, I guess, of the third kind, or would you call it a fourth kind, where you were abducted? I know that those are the classifications given by Dr. Hynek.
But I know,
It was a landed craft. You saw occupants, and you went on board it.
no, and the men who came, got in touch with us were from the White House, National Security Council, NASA, and let's see. Yeah, these
All
were the top
The big
government.
dogs.
Right,
And goof on.
right. And the first thing they said
Oh,
to
for
us,
Christ's sake, Hidden.
stay away from the
Please don't
UFO
mention his name.
organizations.
And that's, I'd like to reemphasize that to anybody listening at home today. Oh, good for you. You're your
Yep.
own person.
Like they
Um,
said, we want to know the facts.
Mhm.
And we don't want you to even with the possibility of being influenced by something else.
Mhm.
So stay right away. And I always have.
Mhm.
And I still have contacts.
It gets to the spring of 1962. Problems start happening with Barney. What's going on with Barney?
Barney started to, his blood pressure was fluctuating and he was having anxieties. Well, see, Barney was working the midnight shift too. So he's driving to Boston, South Station, every night. Had to be there, I think, midnight. And, he's getting home, getting through, 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. He's trying to sleep during the day. And everything just built up. And he got sick physically.
Mm-hmm. Lack of sleep can compound itself.
Yep.
At that point, did you equate that to the incident of September 19th? Did you think it was directly related? Was he
Nope.
having any sort of nightmares, or was just he just couldn't get his sleep?
He couldn't sleep. And
And
he was like, before we started going to Dr. Simon, he'd leave here, start to drive into Boston to go to work, turn around, come home. And he'd just say, I can't do it. I'm too exhausted. I don't feel good.
enter Dr. Simon.
And then, no, he wasn't, he was going to his regular family doctor. who's prescribing medications and all, trying to treat him, and he's not improving. So his doctors thought maybe he had some kind of emotional problem that was preventing him from healing. So he sent him into a psychiatrist in the same office building he was in. So Barney started going to Dr. Stevens on a regular basis, talking about his childhood and his mother and his father and all.
All right, Simeon. Thanks for being in chat, man. Much appreciated. And yeah, take care of yourself. All the best.
One day, Dr. Stevens said, "What did you do this weekend?"
Sorry, I didn't see that.
And Barney told him we went up in the White Mountains looking for UFOs. And then Barney told him. And he's the one who referred us to Dr. Benjamin Simon, who had been one of his teachers in medical school.
Dr. Simon puts both of you under hypnosis, records.
Now, let me get straight about hypnosis.
Mhm.
What you hear and what you see is stage hypnosis. We had medical hypnosis, which is the kind that's used in surgery.
Medical hypnosis, it's a highly trained psychologist
I don't
or
know-
doctor as opposed to a charlatan with a watch dangling back and forth.
Right.
Okay.
Right. And Dr. Simon, at the end of World War II, had been the director of the Mason General Hospital in New York City for the treatment of servicemen coming back from World War II who had emotional problems. And he was so highly successful using medical hypnosis that the U.S. Army did a documentary of Dr. Simon's work. And in the beginning, it was 2 hours long. But then, in 1980, around there somewhere, they shortened the film to 1 hour, and it was shown at public PBS stations, and the name of the film is Let There Be Light. And if you could get a hold of it, it is one of the greatest things you ever saw.
So this man has a lot of badges, I guess, in the field
Dr. Simon?
his field of psychiatry, but he's not somebody that would lead questions. He's like you said, he had brought a lot of men out of battle fatigue that were emotionally scarred in combat,
Yeah.
and the casualties in World War I alone of shell shock.
Yeah.
That men, if they had been treated by trained physicians, and they could have been saved and
Like, for
almost been brought
example,
back to normality.
in this film, there's a serviceman was brought in a wheelchair. He cannot walk. Now, he'd been hit by shrapnel. It all had been removed. There was no reason in the world why he couldn't walk, except he couldn't. So he's lying on the bed. Dr. Simon puts in medical hypnosis. And he says to him, "Get up and walk." He says, jumps out of bed and walks. And he's walking around the room, and he goes over to the nurse, and he's crying, and he's saying, look, I can walk. I can really walk. Dr. Simon
I just found the documentary. I will put it in chat for all you guys. It came out in 1980.
puts him back in the bed, brings him out of the hypnosis, and the first thing this patient does is he looks at Dr. Simon, real worried look in his face, and he says, "Do you think I'll ever be able to walk?" And Doctor said, "I'm sure you will." And at the end of the movie, it shows him outdoors playing baseball.
So Dr. Simon could help people will their way through agony.
Right?
This is brought to the public's attention in 1968 or 69 when a movie is made. When you were known, obviously, through newspaper accounts, but you were brought worldwide, I guess, publicity or maximum publicity when the movie was made.
Now, in 1965, reporter from a Boston newspaper heard about our experience, and without ever meeting us, published it for 5 days on the front pages of the newspaper. It went all over the world at that moment.
Without having met you, he took
never
liberties.
met us.
He took liberties with the story, and there were some inaccuracies.
Yep.
Like what's
Well, he was pretty accurate. I was amazed. I still don't know where his source was.
do you think that maybe one of your government contacts had leaked this information to him and had orchestrated somehow to get this to the public consciousness?
One of your church
I never
friends.
thought of that. I don't know.
Okay. What myths do you want to dispel about your encounter and things that they fail to mention. Either they fail to mention when people think about the UFO incident with you and Barney, and what are some myths that you'd like to dispel about that? If you can think of any liberties. I've learned some stuff. For instance, tonight I always thought that they were almond-shaped entities with the alien. You said no, they were very much human-like. They spoke to you verbally as opposed to telepathically.
Right. And we had a great time.
And you had a great time.
And if you want to wait a minute, I'll go get Junior so you can see what Junior looks like.
Okay, sure, absolutely.
Hold up, I thought they spoke telepathically to him.
No, apparently he spoke English. No telepathic. Yeah. I think it's probably worth going back to the hypnosis compared to, or even the early interviews compared to what she's saying now. Yeah, I'm not too sure on this. Do you want me to continue hidden just for a bit?
Oh, I don't know.
Well, I tell you what, we'll leave it there.
How much longer have we got this? Okay.
Oh, we've got over hour and a half, mate.
Oh, bloody hell.
Not even halfway through with that. I'd say we'll leave it there. It's just I wanted to show you Betty in her later life, because normally when you have these cases, after so many years, they tend to add extra bits and pieces to the story. Do you know what I mean? Is it like the Bob Lazar story where it's very coherent in the past 30 years? Or is she started to change the story a little bit? Bear in mind, she is quite old there. She is quite old. And I think she's heavily medicated, from what somebody said in chat. And it's a bit like my nan. She's 90 years old. She forgets stuff. She doesn't know what a flipping as toasted sandwich is anymore, even though she used to cook it for me when I was a kid and all that. Doesn't know what a cottage pie is anymore. Shepherd's pie. It comes with the territory with age. Do you know what I mean? So, but yeah, I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. From that interview from 1999, yeah, she's quite old at that point. She seems quite coherent with her story. I mean, she doesn't sound like she's lying or anything like that. She seems to be quite there, really.
Yeah. I mean, she's correcting the guy on points and stuff. But
this is it. Good point. So yeah, I mean, if you want to see that video, guys, Eyes on Cinema, I'll put it in chat.
Yeah. We'll
can
put it in chat.
We'll put it in chat so you can watch for your heart content.
Oh.
There we go. I'll stick it in chat for you. There we go. Fantastic. So, yoga with Denise. I'll check out your videos. I'll have some yoga techniques I can use. Yeah. Somebody says I need to get into yoga. My hamstrings are very, very tight and they need a bit of stretching. I think yoga would do the trick, but I'll go check your channel out. So, yeah, thanks, Yoga with Denise. Much appreciated for being in chat. Thank you. So, yeah, that's Betty and Barney Hill. We know the full story. It's immensely fascinating. I am more inclined to believe their story, to be honest with you, even though you can make some counter arguments in regards of their case. But she seems quite there, to be honest with you, later on in life. So, yeah. Hidden? What do you reckon, mate?
I reckon something happened.
Yeah, I reckon so. Yeah.
It's got to be sifting out but something happened. Something happened.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there is the truth.
Yeah. You went to the Terminator there.
I believe it more than Travis Walton, though. I agree with that.
Yeah,
I agree with Black Dog.
I would say so. Yeah, for sure.
Always terminating.
Yeah, interesting case. Really is very interesting story. I'm more inclined to believe their abduction cases. There's plenty of videos online. I've probably not even scratched the surface in terms of this one. So, but immensely fascinating. It really is. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's all I can say.
You look stoned, mate.
I am. I'm proper China-fied.
Oh dear,
Yeah.
should we call it a quits for this show? Do you want to let the people know what we have in store for our next show on the guests coming up, or should we leave it for next time?
Well, we can say. I think it's a cool thing going down. But we're going to be looking at the Westall sighting. And not only are we looking at it, we're having the one of the lead researchers on that case, Grant Levacki.
Levac, yeah.
Levac?
Grant Levac, yeah.
Grant
He's going to be on the
Levac.
show. Yeah,
I'm going to have
he's
to
gonna be
tell
on
him
the
forgive
show.
me. Yeah, he's
That's
coming
all right.
on the show, so we're gonna ask him loads of questions about Westall, man.
Yeah,
Or maybe
yeah.
or he can tell us things about it, but it's pretty cool story, man. Pretty cool sighting.
Yeah,
I
it
like
is.
this one. I like this one.
Yeah.
I like this
So
one
go
a
check.
lot.
So if you want to backtrack on this sighting, Hidden Underbelly did a show about this sighting. It's immensely fascinating.
And
But
I didn't. And to be honest, I didn't know. I just saw the anniversary, and I thought, you know what? Let's check it out. So I did not know. I did not know how fascinating this story was, and it was really cool that the guys, you guys who turned up and was watching it, also was saying the same thing. Didn't know about this one. Didn't know about this one. Up to three flying saucers were there.
yeah, it's an immensely fascinating case, and I'm really looking forward to be speaking with Grant. He's given us an hour of his time. But hour is better than nothing, so we will bombard him with questions, and I'm sure he gives a lot of details into this case, which is immensely fascinating. So I'm looking forward to it. I really am. Yeah, nice one, Hidden.
That's what we do.
That's what we do here. Absolutely. So we have our 420 show, which is on Monday, the 20th, so 420 show, and I know John P. Adventures will be joining us for that one.
And Alien Bros. Make sure you send me that email. You can find it in any of my videos, not in live streams, but any of my videos, and that'll give me an extra view. Thank you very much. But please just send me an email, and so I got you. And then we can work there. And if I see anything that I think you might be interested in, you know, I don't know what you want to go for. Do you want to go for the fun and games or keep it real? If you want to keep it real, trust me.
We do a bit of both. It'd be good. I'm looking
I
forward to the show.
I like the fun and games. No, I'm talking because he wants to start. He wants to start jumping back in the field, man. But the field's kind of quiet.
It is, yeah. This is why I don't really talk about, same with you, Hidden, you know, what's currently going on. I mean, yeah, we kind of do, but it's just, there's a lot of nonsense out there, really. There's a lot of blah stuff. That's why I look into the past with my stuff. So, yeah.
That's it. In order to see the future, you must look at the past.
We do indeed. This is what we do here, absolutely. So,
but I did want to end the show on a lighter note, so I do have one video I do want to show you. I know Nick wants to run off because he's stoned.
I haven't been stoned in 2 months, mate. So, yeah, I'm officially an old man sober. I'm a boring old git, as one would say. Oh, is it that Logan thing?
No, but if you want to, if you want to talk about that.
Oh no, it's not that. No.
What I want to show is only going to be a minute.
Yeah, that's right. Play what you got. Let's have a look.
Is this Bob? Is Bob Lazar there?
Yeah, Bob Lazar's here. Yeah, he's in chat.
Oh, good. Oh, good, Bob. You still here? This is for you, mate. I come across this oh my God, I hate this thing.
Yeah, I'll have a beer with you, John. Don't worry.
I'll have a smoke.
This is what happens. So what happens when you smoke weed? You can't function properly. Trust me, I know that. I had 20 years experience for it, where you can't even put links up properly. Even your camera's going all funny. The feds are
that's
getting
just
you, mate.
me. They won't stop me. All right, I think this is it. No. God damn it. There we go.
And just one more time, the link for my channel is in description right there, and in chat. So please like and subscribe. What's this?
This is for Mr. Bob Lazar. I came across this today.
This was basically him just repeating things that came from the Barney and Betty Hill abduction case in 1961.
Was some paperwork that indicated that this was from the Zeta Reticuli star system.
The name of the star system was the same.
Well, the little gray Zeta Reticuli, Barney and Betty's abduction.
The machine that was able to read the size of your digits.
When you put your hands on there, the light would turn on and your badge would pop out.
And Jeremy, you found this.
I found it.
I never thought I'd see
this element 115 was the fuel.
Yeah.
There was an article, I believe, in Scientific American the year before he started talking about it, and it wasn't at all surprising.
Element 115, the fuel they had.
So we knew we were going to discover elements.
So it's the reactor here powering the gravity amplifiers, the resulting gravity beam, or anti-gravity wave.
That it just reads like bad science fiction.
They said it was bullshit, it was science fiction.
It's a staple of science fiction.
Flying saucer mystery makes headlines.
This flying saucer that I worked on. It was sometime later that I was introduced to my lab partner. Yeah. Barry.
Yeah. What's interesting about the 115? It was actually in a scientific magazine before Bob Lazar came forward. Actually stated it in there. I watched a video of a woman who sort of thinks he's a con, and you look through the backtrack record of Bob Lazar, and it's extremely fishy stuff. Like Marion twice, his wife died in a home, and then his other wife was committed for murder. It is like you won't believe. Well, he got arrested for a brothel. It's just like, whoa.
Yeah, but he still ain't as bad as Suck It Chris. I mean, Chris, you know what? That Chris fool ain't even backing down. You know what he's trying to say? He was right. The red star was Mars. So,
oh dear. But
I thought Bob Lazar would get a kick out of that one, and it might not appear in the, because I didn't realize when I was watching it, I was kind of laughing, but I wasn't paying attention to the music, so it might get a strike on the music, so it might not be there. So that was a little treat for the live show people.
Sweet. Awesome, mate. Awesome. And we'll play that Logan Paul footage on Monday's show. We can all have a little talk about that if needs to be, but yeah, nothing special. Nothing special. Yeah,
and I'll figure out what we're going to talk about on Monday.
Yeah, I'll find something. I'll find out like a Portugal case, a UFO case that's happening.
Okay. Well, yeah, because you can be the straight man, innit?
Yeah, I'll be the. You can be the children, and I'll be the father, keeping an eye on the little runts.
You just call it the straight man. Just call it the straight man.
Okay, that's fine. Don't worry. I'll be drinking some beers and all that with you guys. So yeah. But yeah, as Betty Barney Hill, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. It is a immensely fascinating story. I remain open-minded, more believable than Logan Paul's crap footage. But nevertheless, I appreciate everyone being in chat. And once again, if you can be so kind, like and subscribe to this channel right here. This is my channel, which I'll be going live on Friday not Alien Addict. Until Alien Addict is actually resolved, there will be no uploads, no live streams until the hackers are officially off that channel itself. But come check me out on that channel. It's in description and it's in chat right now, and that'll be greatly appreciated. And if you want to see unseen documentaries, UFO documentaries like this one I bought from America, you must subscribe to FX Files. It's in there. I'll do it again in chat. This is where you can find all these documentaries, okay? All there for you to watch. So please like and subscribe, and I'll see you there Friday. All right? So there we go.
That's it.
Yeah. Hidden pleasure as always.
Oh my God. Hold on a second. There we go. Yeah. Right. So that's it. I got nothing to say other than suck it, Chris.
And we'll see you guys on Monday at 9 o'clock. All right.
Yes, 9 o'clock. Definitely 9 o'clock.
Apologies.
So please, Nick, you'll get in touch with John.
Yes, I will. I'll be in contact with you, John
So
P. Adventures. Don't worry, mate.
And I'll get in contact with Alien Bros. Hopefully, you send me an email, please, Alien. Don't make me hunt you down, because if I have to, it's going to be like on Saturday or something. But like, please send me an email. I know you're there.
Hold on, I'll find your email address. There it is, and I'll put it in chat. I'll put it in chat for you guys.
I sent you one already. Did it? I didn't see one.
There we go, Alien Bros. That's the email address. That's Hidden Underbelly's email address. There it is.
Okay, and that's it then. That's
Cool.
it. I'm out of here too. All right.
All right, mate.
Well, what can I say? I am working every day, but there's just nothing good out there, man. Dots in the sky. We're going back to dots in the sky.
Dots in the sky and CG, AI nonsense, and welcome to the new age of ufology.
I can see through all that. It's just we're going back to dots in the skies. So,
Yeah.
But you never know, man. You never know what a new day will bring. Because just remember, in ufology, they all can't be balloons.
Absolutely.
That's my word of wisdom. And that's it. I'm out of here, so...
Sweet.
Okay, I can't. Anyways, I'm gonna go. I'll see you guys later, man. Much love, much love.
See you Monday or Friday. Take care.
Hidden underbelly, deep and wide, chasing saucers in the starry skies. Truth uncovered where the shadows lie. Big up our brother, he's the cosmic guide. All hidden, all hidden. Your light is never forbidden. Hidden, all hidden. The truth you've always given. Whispers of the cosmos in the night, shining answers through your second sight. Investigations that you bring to light. Mysteries unfolding your endless fight. All hidden, all hidden. Your light is never forbidden. Hidden, all hidden. The truth you've always given. Saucer trails and cosmic tales. Through the static you prevail. Hidden brother on the case, bringing truth to every space.